Thank you. Woo. Wow. Good morning. How you doing, guys? Are you good? Oh, AVing a little bit there. Good. Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Welcome. Are you guys ready? Yes. Are you excited? Yes. It's been a little bit of a wait since May, hasn't it? Good. How many people saw me at the National Achievers Congress with Kiyosaki and all the gang in May? Quick show of hands. Ooh, a lot of you. And how many people saw me recently in Australia? Because we just did. Okay, great. So great, fantastic. Listen, the next 2 days, if you choose them to be, can be life transforming. I've done this program pretty much all over the world, and I've got to tell you now, foreign exchange, or the trading of foreign exchange, in my opinion, and as you know, I teach I run a trading floor in London which trades pretty much everything from futures to indices to the UK stock market to the US markets to everything. But let me tell you now, foreign exchange has to be one of the fastest growing asset classes that people use to make a primary or a decent secondary income. And the reason for that is because it allows you so much leverage and the strategies are very successful. Am I going quiet again? No. Okay, you guys can hear me. Okay, good. So we're going to have a good 2 days here because there's a lot to learn, okay? And you can see that by the manuals that you've got in front of you. But the most important thing I'm going to do is I'm going to structure it in the following way. We call today Environment Day. We call today Environment Day, which basically means you're going to learn everything today that you need to know in order to be successful trading the Forex markets, but it's not going to be enough to make money. Okay, so today is what normal people do when they learn the Forex markets, but I'm just going to cut through all the rubbish. So I'm just going to get you to the stuff that's really important. You could literally study the Forex markets for years and still be no better off. So what I'm going to do is just cut to the stuff that's really key and crucial and focus on that. And we're going to do that today. And that's going to call environment. So you know everything that matters. Tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to integrate strategies. And strategies are what trading and making money is all about. There is a huge difference, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, between understanding how to trade and making money from trading. Is that true, yes or no? Yes. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make sure you know everything you need to know. Tomorrow, I'm going to integrate the trading strategy, which is going to show you specifically where to get into trades, how to make money from it, and then how to leverage your money as quickly as possible so you can make a decent income from it. And that means in some people's cases, you can be financially independent within weeks and months rather than years. Often trading some of the more traditional asset classes with the lack of leverage and the lack of success in some of the strategies that are associated with the stock market can take years. For the foreign exchange markets, you can do it very quickly. But you need to be very disciplined. You need to have risk management strategies in place, and that's the key cornerstones that we're going to talk about and make sure that you integrate over the next 2 days. You guys up for that? Yes or no? Yes. Good, and I can hear myself speak now, which is good. At least you can too. So there's a few things to talk about before we get going. First of all, when I teach people to trade, see, I do it in two different ways. One is we've got to give you some information, but also I've got to make sure that you are ready for the information at the same time. I spent a long time over the last 7 years since I left the investment banking world, set up a trading floor from home, which then grew. Now we have a vast number of traders trading on that floor from our home in London on the Thames in Chelsea Harbour. We learned a lot of lessons, and I learned a lot of lessons about teaching people to make money trading. And there's a big difference between people who attend, say, for example, seminar programs and people who go ahead and make money. In fact, I noticed that you could talk to an audience like this, and one person would sit there, would get the information, and they would go ahead and just go and make a load of money. What do you think happened to the person that was sat next to them? Right, not a whole lot. Nothing would happen. And the reason so I investigated this, how come I could teach similar people the same stuff? One person would go off and make a load of money, one person would just practically do nothing. And I discovered there was things that are holding us back from making money trading. What I learned was it does not matter the trading strategies that you learn. If there's an underlying mental block in making money, then there's a problem. And so I want to kind of remove some of these things out of the way first to clear, if I can, the installation of these strategies that are going to show you guys how to make money. Does that make sense? So what I want you to do, first of all, I want to open you up a little bit. So we're going to change things around. I want you to integrate as a team. You're in a room here of a whole number of people. Some of the people in this room have traded before. Let me see you guys put a show of hands together. Okay, good. So So that's all you guys in the middle and a few on the side. And then how many people here have never traded before? This is literally the first time and they don't even know what foreign exchange is. And oh my God. Okay, good. Thank you for your faith. Yep. So look, here's what we need to recognize. One of the most powerful things you can do when you go through an experience like this is to do it with other people. Okay, to share the experience. You all live, I'm assuming, this part of the world, so it's important that you spend time with people that are doing this to support each other. We will coach you remotely from London, but at the same time it's good to form trading buddies. Does that make sense? One of the things we were really successful when we set up the firm in London is we got people to trade with each other. And create some friend groups, and you guys have all set yourselves up, so you've got Skype and all these different tools, and it's a really good idea if you just trade purely, trading can be a lonely experience, right? I mean, even though you make a load of money, you still get lonely, and that's how this led me into all of this. I just sat and made a load of money, got really fat, and then decided I needed to make some friends, and then all of this madness happened. So it's really important to take people with you along the journey. So what we're going to do is kind of open you up to a little bit. Are you guys up for that? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah. So what we're going to do essentially is I want you to think. How many people here have been to London before? Let me see. Oh my God, it's like everybody. Okay, so let me have a member of my team. Well, let's say Adam, you'll do. Why don't you come down here? Come back, Adam. So if you've ever, how many people here have ridden on the tube before? The London Underground, or the Tube, is our underground train, and it travels hundreds of meters under the earth in some places. And on a Monday morning, the London Underground, or the Tube, is quite a different place than what it's like on a Friday evening. How many people have had that experience? Yeah. In other words, on a Monday morning in London, people in London don't talk to anybody. No one talks to anyone. And the reason we don't talk to people is because we're afraid of being mugged, okay? It's quite a simple science. If you lock eye contact with somebody for longer than 3 or 4 seconds, you start checking your pockets. That's just London, right? So Monday morning, people get onto the tube and nobody looks at anybody, and it's taboo to have eye contact with anybody. Come Friday night, the Brits are like, we're very conservative during the day, but then time the evening comes, we all go like complete lunatics. They say mad dogs and Englishmen. So on a Friday night, everyone's kind of having fun. And up until recently, drinking was completely allowed on the tube. So people used to take their wine and they'd drink on the tube on a Friday. So Friday night was quite a fun place to be, if you like riding the tube. And you certainly meet a load of people. But you certainly wouldn't on a Monday. Why am I talking about London Underground? Because you guys we need to get you in a suitable state for learning. Please get your notes ready, pen. Okay, here's a suitable state for learning. A suitable state for learning is we've got to be open. Okay, so write this down. Suitable state for learning is the brain must be cold, or as cool as possible. The brain must be cold, but the body should be warm, just like a computer. So the brain must be cold, but the body should be warm. So what we should do is we're going to be dropping the temperature in the room. And if you get cold, keep something warm on you, or I'll get you moving around or what have you. But we want the brain a little bit colder, and we want the body a little bit warmer. That's how we should have it. If it gets too warm in here, then the brain starts to shut down and stops absorbing information. So that's important. So a suitable state for learning is, physiologically, the body should be a little bit warmer, the brain should be a little bit colder. That way I can get you to absorb loads of good stuff. And then secondly, I've got to get you open. So I start to integrate you with other people, and this is the London Underground. So remember, people are all the same, but they can act differently depending on the environment. Is that true, yes or no? Yes. Yeah, and when you pull a bunch of people who don't know each other in an auditorium like this, people tend to act in one of two ways. They either become extremely friendly or they shut down. Most of the time people shut down. And that's no good. I need you to be open. I need you to do things that you wouldn't normally do, and because you're going to learn something that you don't already know, and it's a big life-changing thing you're going to learn. Because if you use this, what I'm going to teach you this weekend, to its full potential, you need never work again. And I mean that. You need never, ever work again. I have people that attend this program in London. In fact, this is the #1 selling program in Europe, okay? This program that you're doing. The people who do this, they quit their jobs in weeks and months if they take it seriously. You cannot take it seriously and do nothing with it. That's the same with life everywhere. So I need to get you in a suitable state for learning. Are you guys up for that? Yes or no? Yes. Oh, there they are. Good. So you just turned your volume on. That's good. So this is Adam. Remember Adam? Adam, we flew him out in the team from the trading floor in London. Adam looks after the advanced traders and some of the professionals that we have that trade some of our fund accounts. And you want to spend a little bit of time with him and his team because they know what it takes to go beyond just the textbook to the application and making money. So just, when you have your little breaks and stuff, do spend time and chit-chat because they're here to support you. So here's what I want you to do. This is just get this little game going right, get you in a suitable state. So I want you to imagine that, I want you to go around the room in a minute, but I want you to imagine Adam is somebody who is an employee at the company you work at, right? And that's it, yeah. The gut comes out. He's been sucking in for a long time. No, I'm just kidding. So he's an employee at the company you work at, and you aren't too interested in meeting this guy because he's kind of vying for your job role, and you're going to have to probably share your bonus with him and all that kind of stuff. So you're not particularly over the moon about meeting Adam. So you kind of like, hi, nice to meet you, or whatever. And then you kind of move on. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's the state I want you to do. I want you to think, if you've been to London, which most of you seem to have done, I want you to think London Underground, Monday morning. We're going to do kind of dreary music and stuff like that. And I want you to meet get out of your chairs, up, everybody up. I want you to meet as many people as you can, just like that. Please go for that now. Do not smile, do not laugh, put your books down and just meet people. That's not a fun way to meet people, is that true? No, it doesn't really work, does it? So what I want you to now think about is you're back in the workplace. Everybody, look at you guys sitting down. Get back up. What are you guys? You're supposed to be healthy Australian power men and women. Jesus Christ. Okay, so so now I want you to imagine this time the person you're meeting is your new boss, the giver of the bonus. Okay, the giver of the bonus. So this time it's like, Adam, hi, nice to meet you. Just like that, meet as many people as you can, like that, quickly as possible. Meet people. Okay, so listen, was that better? Yes or no? Yeah, so my mum used to tell me, stretched people never return to the same shape. Does that make sense? Yeah. Not fat people, stretched people. Stretched people never return to the same shape, okay? So I want to stretch you a little bit. So is there another level beyond what we just did, yes or no? Yes. Yeah, now get back up. What are you guys doing sitting down? Get up! You're going to be sat down for hours in a minute. You're going to want to stand up. So listen, there's another level, and I know for some people this is uncomfortable. Like, why do I have to bloody do this? I just want to get into the indicators. Forget it! I know what you're thinking. Yeah, we'll do more in so many indicators, you'll be sick of indicators. But we've got time to do something else first. So now there's another level, and this time I want you to imagine, right? And if you can imagine this, it's quite funny. I want you to imagine that Adam is my brother, okay, from England, and we haven't seen each other for 6 years because he's been traveling and so on. And yeah, I know. Yeah, you know where we're going, right? You don't have to get in your birthday suit for this. You're okay. But he's just arrived at the arrivals lounge in Sydney Airport, and you're so excited. Say, Adam! Meet as many people as you can, like that. Stretch yourself. Go quickly. Was that better? Yes or no? Yes. Give yourselves a round of applause, Sydney. Great, and back to your seats. Thank you. Give Adam a round of applause for being a great guy at an airport. That was good. It's okay, yeah, thank you. Okay. So look. So, let's get this little sucker started right. So we're going to install some stuff in your head that's going to be important over the next 2 days. Now the key is, this is important. Do you guys feel better? Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? You know, whenever you go to like a talk thing and it's everyone sitting there real like starchy, it's kind of dull. So it's nice to kind of get to meet people, and it's nice. So now you're a nice big team, you know, and you can act like a team for the rest of the weekend and we can learn together. So how come you can teach some people some stuff and they just go off and they implement it and start? So I told you, I don't know if you remember, but I told you a story when I was at the National Achievers Congress, and I told you a story about how I taught some friends to trade, and they all sat on my lounge floor smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, but they all making good money trading foreign exchange. And then I was invited to a party, and a bunch of people there had been to some seminar and they'd never done anything with it. The material that they'd learned, none of them had even opened trading accounts. Okay, and I've done a lot of work on that area. What is the difference that makes the difference? How do you get someone to not just understand? I mean, listen. If we took the core component of this program, just the core part, which is the trading strategies, I could probably teach it to you in a few hours, and we're done. But the problem with that is, okay, you wouldn't have the awareness stuff that we're going to do today, which would mean you'd ultimately come unstuck a bit. But the most important thing is you wouldn't have the strategy of how to then implement it, and that's the critical bit. Do you see what I'm saying? Like most people, you'll teach them information and they understand the principles. They just never get to know the principles because they don't do it. So I did a lot of work on understanding what is it. Why can you teach one person some stuff and they'll go off and they'll keep calling you every couple of months, telling you how well they're doing, and they're excited and they're pumped up, and yet other people, they just won't do anything with the information. And then I learned this. This thing all about the psychology of the mind, and how the unconscious part of the mind is always in control, yet people are unaware of the unconscious part of the mind. And so, to cut a long story short, I'm having dinner with. Do you remember the guy? Do any of you guys read The Wolf of Wall Street? Do you remember that? Did you hear about that book? This is the guy. Okay, so I'm having dinner with him just a couple of nights ago, and this was a guy that set up a brokerage firm in New York in the 90s. And I'm just telling him we're just talking about, because he's now speaking and talking to people about what he did and everything. He created like $15 million a day and had the biggest brokerage firm in America. And they made a film about it. It was called Boiler Room. The guy went to prison and everything. All the directors went to prison. It was just like this incredible story. And now Leonardo DiCaprio is filming the film in March. It's like I was spending $150 million just to promote this film. And so we were having dinner and talking. And he's a really interesting, colourful but interesting character. And so we're talking about the psychology of wealth and what holds people back and why some people are driven and other people aren't. And I want to share with you. So I told this table a riddle, which really helped me understand some things. I learned a long time ago, and I'd like to do the riddle. Would you like to do a riddle? Would you like to do the riddle I did at dinner the other night? Yes. This is just fun, but it's a really important thing. Now, here's the way the riddle works. I'm going to tell you the riddle, and some of you have already heard the riddle, okay? Now, when you have a room this size, the people that have heard the riddle before, what do you think they want to do? They just want to shout out the answer, right? And so what you do is you say to people, and I do this in seminars at home, I say, look, I'm going to tell you the riddle. And I go, but I want you to commit 100% that if you know the answer to the riddle, you won't shout out the answer, because then it spoils it for everybody else. Does that make sense? And everyone goes, I completely agree. And then what happens is that, some smart ass pretends they just figured it out in like 6 seconds. They go, oh yeah, but the answer's that. I didn't know the answer. Does that make sense? So I want you to commit to play full out with this, because it's an interesting mindset thing, and I want to get your mindset right for this training, because it's important that we get your mind kind of thinking right before we get started. Well, we are started, but before we start talking about indicators and things, okay? So are you good with that? Yes or no? Yeah, so I want you to agree. So say, I solemnly swear if I know the answer, I figure out the answer in less than a minute or two, I will not shout out the answer. Is that true? Yes or no? Yes. And if anybody does shout out the answer, we will go, boo! Is that you good with that? Yes. Okay, good. So I want to tell you a story, or a riddle, that illustrates how strong the conditioning of the mind is, or how strong mind conditioning is, and how most of us in society today are conditioned. Okay, and that's why there isn't 50 million people sat in front of me right now. There's a lot of people sat in front of me, but the point of the matter is, most people have been conditioned that they have to work hard for all of their life to make a few crumbs, and they can't have big wealth in a short period of time and all of that. There's such incredible mass conditioning going on, and I want to prove it by this little riddle. Okay, so here goes the riddle. And this riddle really illustrates that you can hold up, let's say a piece of card, it's black on one side and it's white on the other side. And you hold up the black card, but all everybody sees is white, despite the fact it's like right in front of their face. Does that make sense? In other words, that's how strong cultural hypnosis is. Cultural hypnosis is what we call mass conditioning, and that's how strong it is, and it really pertains to the area of wealth and wealth creation. So, and this is really important to where you're now going. So
there's this little, here's the riddle. Get ready for the riddle. Here, you guys ready for the riddle? Okay, good. Let's get on with the riddle. So there's a little boy, and if you know it already, if you know it, you can put your hand up like that, and then I know you know, and we're okay. Is that good? Okay, good. Because I know someone will, a group this size, there's always going to be one joker in the pack. So anyway, so there's this little boy, and he's if you do know the answer to this, just keep it to yourself. Okay, so there's a little boy and he's waiting for his dad to pick him up to go soccer practice, and his dad's late, because his dad's been in business meetings all day. So anyway, the dad gets to the school and the kid's like the last kid outside the school. He's like, "What the hell have you been?" And the dad's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. Get in quick, we'll get it." So they get in the car, and it's been raining all day. You can tell this story's set in London, and it's been raining all day, and it's kind of wet on the roads. And then the kid gets in the car, and the dad he feels bad, so he's tearing off at full speed, and he's flying down the M1, which is a big motorway in London, and he's going too fast. Okay, and there's too much water on the road, and at about 100 miles an hour, this BMW starts aquaplaning, and it starts aquaplaning sideways, and as it does that, the kid's like, "Dad, what's going on?" He says, it's okay, but you're going too fast. And as they go too fast, they hit into a tree. And as they hit into a tree, it's not a happy story, this. As they hit into a tree, the branch kind of takes the windscreen out, right, and just lops the head of the dad straight off. I mean, it's it's a really bad scene, Fortunately, or not, the child is shorter than the father, so he doesn't get the lopping off. He kind of gets more of a scraping, but he's still alive. The child's, but he is in a critical condition because he's pretty bashed up. But the dad, he's gone. He's over. So there's a couple of vans that turn up at the scene. One's the mortuary van, and the other one's the ambulance, right? And so the ambulance men quickly get the kid out of the car and put him on the stretcher and wheel him back, and they radio ahead to the hospital, and they said, this child is in a critical condition, life-threatening. Get the best surgeon in the hospital prepped and ready because this little boy needs immediate attention. Okay, so the hospital goes, okay, we'll get it going, So anyway, cut a long story short, the hospital, the ambulance gets to the hospital, they wheel the kid out, and as the kid goes into theatre, the best surgeon in the hospital walks in, pulls on the plastic gloves and goes, "Whoa, I can't work on this boy. He's my son. You know the answer, great. Okay, some people know the answer's good. Thank you for not shouting out, I really appreciate it." So I want you to think, now how is that so? When we walk through elements of the story again, Dad, get the best surgeon in the hospital ready, some people have got it, good. Some people are sitting there going, who could this be? So then they say, get the best surgeon in the hospital ready, so the best surgeon's putting the gloves on, walks in, can't work on that little boy, he's my son. Who could it be? Don't shout it out. Keep it to yourself if you know. Any hands of people who know? Some people know, good. And maybe some people have figured it out. That's really good. I appreciate you keeping it to yourself. How many people here are still thinking, not quite sure the answer yet? Very good, very honest, brilliant. So, and keep it to yourself if you know the answer. I really appreciate it. So the point is, I'm holding up a black piece of card, but everybody, 90% of the room still, is seeing white. Does that make sense? So we go through this backwards and forwards, and I was doing this at this table of people, and they were like, who could it be? Who could it be? The dad's dead, for God's sake, who could it be? And so we had answers like this: it's his rabbi, it's a priest, who else? We had all these different, it's his stepfather, it's God. Yes, I mean, there's all these different people. So can I tell you what the answer is? Yes. Okay, of course the answer is it's his mother. It's his mother. It's his mother. Everyone's like, oh my God. yeah, especially all the women's right people. Yeah. So it's his mother. But what the shocking thing about that is, of course, it's we've been mass conditioned that this best surgeon in the hospital has got to be a man. And it's ridiculous, because if you've ever been to hospital, you'll know that some of the top surgeons in hospitals, of course, they're women. I mean, most women outpace men in schools. So why they wouldn't in that part of work, is incredible. But that's how we've been conditioned. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when you think about that, it's really incredible, isn't it? The only person that could have been the other parent is the mother. But everyone's sitting thinking, well, it can't be her. She's a woman. I'm looking for another man. And it's what we call a scotoma. Please write this down as scotoma. See if you can spell it. I can't, so you have to try. It's called a scotoma, or what we call a blind spot. It's called a scotoma or a blind spot. And what it basically means is it's a part that you don't know that you don't know, and if you don't know what you don't know, you can't do what needs to be done. Please write that down. If you don't know what you don't know, you can't do what needs to be done. It's a blind spot. It's a blind spot. Does this affect people who want to make money? Yes or no? Oh shit, yeah. There's a lot of blind spots out there when it comes to making money. And we call these things people's money stories. People's money stories. What I will teach you this weekend, I will teach you the vehicle. I will teach you the vehicle to making a lot of money trading foreign exchange. I promise you I will teach you that. You will walk out of here ready to rock and roll. Okay? You'll have my strategies. You'll have the strategies we use every day on our trading floor in London, identically. Nothing different. You'll have the tools. But it's not just about the tool, it's also about the mindset to use the tools in the right way. Is that true too? Yeah, and a lot of people in life have got some things which are holding them back. For example, take out a piece of paper in your notes, and I want you to write down what you think about money. Just please write down like 5 things that you think about money. And I want you to do it like straight off the top of your head. Money can buy everything. Okay, good. What else? Money buys a lifestyle. Money gives me freedom. Money makes me feel good. Money. Okay, so there's other things too. So write these things down. What do you think about money? You know, when somebody says, you know, what do you think about money? What do you think about money? Oh, I like it. It's good. I get to have things. I get to do things. I get to share things, all that. The more money I have, the more fun things I can do, blah, 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 blah. Yes? Are we getting these things down? Yes or no? Let's have a little bit of sharing what you guys have written down. Let's pop them out, anybody. Money gives me freedom, fun, helping people, holidays, going away. Kids have a better home. There's a parent in the room. Just an idea. It's just a concept, an idea, yeah. Sorry? I always want more money, yeah. Say again? Comes with seasons. Comes easily, sorry, I thought you said comes with seasons. See somebody in the holiday business. What else? Say again? It's okay, hard to get? Okay, good. Okay, so let me just show that. Would you say it's most of the things, when I said, what do you think about money? Okay, thanks for that. What do you, could be a theme tune to my life. What do you think about money? Did you find that most of the things that people said were pretty positive, yes or no? Yeah, that's the stuff they think about money. Now what I want you to do is I want you to think, next column, I want you to write down what are the things that you remember hearing, what do you remember hearing about money when you were a child growing up? What are the things that you remember hearing about money when you were a child growing up? So things like money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford it. You have to work for every penny. Rich people are mean. Money can't buy you happiness. Those people just don't know where to shop. What else? Okay, keep right. Say again. Money's the root of all evil. It's very important to do the voice. What do you think? I'm made of money? We're not made of money. Yes, good. In England, we say look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. What do you say? Look after the cents? And the dollars look after themselves? Maybe. We say look after the pennies and the pounds look after themselves. All these kids end up with these like glass bottles with pennies in at the bottom of their wardrobe, and you find it like when you're 30 with fluff on the top, you know, in your wardrobes. Yeah, that was your wealth bucket. What else?
How much you have and can have is destined, is fated.
Oh yeah, okay, so how much you can have is already preordained, it's destined. Okay, yeah. Wow, that's good, isn't it? You need money to make money, people say. Money doesn't grow on trees. You've got to save for a rainy day. They cost more than sunny days. You're probably okay around here, it's part of the world. Okay, so let's have some ideas on what this list looks like. Give me those things at more higher volume. So money doesn't grow on trees, we heard. What else? Every dollar counts. What do you think? I'm made of money. We can't afford it. You've got to work hard for money. So my point is this. There's two. Does this make sense? Now, what do you guys notice about this list in terms of money? It's pretty negative, is it not? Yeah, and this is the world over. You speak to Americans, Canadians, Brits, Europeans, anybody. This is the same the world over, weirdly enough. Why is that? Well, I think somewhere along the line we think we should teach kids to be thrifty because we're worried that they'll spend everything if they don't have some inbuilt risk management. So what we do is we kind of, the early mentors, the people that imprint us, because we have templates that are imprinted into our minds and these are feelings that are deep-rooted that we have about money that really then go on to control the rest of our life. Do you guys agree with that? And it's been proven by psychologists from years and years over. And most people have just learnt these stories about money, so they operate and they act in a certain way. The interesting thing is this. They think, we're going to call this thinking here. They think here. This is what they think about money. And we're going to call this the conscious. Please don't check my spelling too closely, I can't spell. This is the conscious, okay, and here, over here, this is how we feel. And what's that part called? Subconscious, yeah, or unconscious, same thing. So you've got the conscious, and then you've got the unconscious. So the conscious is what we think about, rationalize about, talk about on a daily basis. Does that make sense? That's how we think. The unconscious is how we feel about stuff. The conscious is responsible for thinking and talking. Write that down. The conscious is responsible for thinking and talking. The unconscious is responsible for feeling and doing. Feeling and doing. Okay, the unconscious is responsible for feeling and doing. So what's the problem? Well, the problem in this is, and we're going to do an exercise tomorrow. I'm going to leave it till tomorrow because it's a really cool little sexy exercise, and you're going to have it tomorrow. But I'm going to get you kind of moving in that way now. The problem is that people automatically set their money goals, their money goals based on how they think or how they feel. Based on how they feel. Now, what have we? So now we look back at the notes that you guys personally made. I hope you did. In the second column, how you feel about money, is that positive or negative? Mostly negative, mostly implanted, mostly risk-based, mostly moving away from values. Money doesn't grow on trees. You've got to work hard for it. So the unconscious part, the feeling part of your brain, the association it has with money is generally based on the feelings that you have attached to it, which have been imprinted from mentors. Those mentors are people like parents and teachers and those kind of people. The challenge with that is that that's what the associations and the feeling you have with money is basically where you've set your goals around how much you're going to earn, regardless of the vehicle. What I'm going to teach you this weekend is some psychology stuff, but also the vehicle of how to get there. But you understand that if the mindset that you take into it is small, in other words, the goals that you have for how much you're going to create is small, then whatever the vehicle you use, you're only ever going to generate small. Does that make sense? They say when you shoot for the moon, if you miss, at least you land amongst the stars, right? And that's the problem with most people, is they don't believe that they can attain $50,000 in a day or $100,000 in a day. They just don't believe that's possible. They just cannot see that for the life of them. They think maybe over 12 months, that's reasonable and respectable, and meat and two veg on that, and that's good. But they can't assimilate in their mind that being possible in their reality, because it's not real for them. Does that make sense? And so what I'm saying here is the beliefs that you hold about how much money you're going to make doing this is going to be in direct proportion to your success in this. In other words, I'm not just going to give you a red button that you're going to press and suddenly this money's going to come tumbling out of the sky. That's ridiculous. But I am going to give you tools which make money. But do you understand that if your mind isn't ready for it, if your mind is not ready to make money, how that's going to become effectively an energy block to you pulling it in? Does that make sense, yes or no? So it's about kind of taking these stabilizers off and having some different thoughts. And I want to talk to you about having some different thoughts. I want to talk to you about being a little bit unreasonable. I want to talk to you a little bit about the beliefs that you hold. And I'd like you to draw this in your notes. Belief, action, resources, leveraged. This was it's called a belief quadrant that was developed by a guy called Dilts in the 70s and 80s in America, and it's an incredible chain. I want you to be aware of it. Okay, so we've got belief up here. Then I'm going to call this number 1. And we've got actions here, number 2, and we've got resources leveraged here, number 3, and we have results here, which is number 4. Now, here's the key. Most people who, when I told you about the dinner party I went to, and I met all these people that were learning to trade, and I told you, if you remember, of the 38 or 40 people, or whatever it was in the room, how many of them were trading? Well, one of them had opened a trading account and placed a few trades, but 37 or so had not. And they'd attended, if you remember, they hadn't just attended their training program last weekend. How many months previous had they attended the training program? It was 6 months. So it had been 6 months since they attended the training program, and here they were meeting up every Wednesday night, drinking a glass of wine, talking about potentially the concept of maybe opening an account and trading. And they'd done that for 6 months. They'd done it for 6 whole months. So the problem was, what was holding them back? Well, it wasn't intelligence. It was belief. And it's a really important distinction. It's a really important distinction. And here's the interesting part, is they thought they believed in trading. So I just asked 3 questions. The question I asked was, how much money are you guys making? The answer was, well, we haven't opened our accounts yet. So the second question I asked was, how many of you even opened accounts, which one person said they had. And then the third question I asked, which was the one that kind of led to the discovery, was I said, did you watch the person trade who taught you this stuff? Did you see it live with your own eyes? And what do you think the answer to that question was? The answer was no. Of course it was no. So importantly, there was no belief built in. And whenever I speak, I say to people this: any training program that you do, any seminar that you do, any workshop that you do that doesn't have belief built in is not going to be worth the money you paid for it. Which means that unless you see the results, unless you see the results, it's very unlikely you're going to have the belief to do it. So let's just walk through this, and let's say somebody has a negative belief system. Let me take one of these people at the dinner party that I saw a few years ago now. And they'd attended the training course only just a few months previously. And the belief they thought they had was positive, but my juxtaposition was, no, it wasn't. It's negative. You have a negative belief set about trading and making money from trading. What do you think they said? No, we don't. We pay good money for our trading course. We drink wine every Wednesday, talking about we have a very positive belief set about trading. I said, no, you don't. You have a negative belief set about trading. The only problem is you think you have a positive belief set about trading. And then I walked them through this idea. I said, look, if you don't really think that you're going to make much money trading, how much action are you going to take? Well, the answer to that is, that's pretty small. So we'll have a couple of glasses of wine. Having a couple of glasses of wine on Wednesday night, is that trading? That's not trading. It's having a couple of glasses on a Wednesday night. So the amount of action they took was pretty small. Now the resources leveraged here are your time and your money. This is your time and your money as it pertains to this particular example. So your resources leveraged are your time and your money. They're your resources. How much time and money does somebody put into trading that they haven't really taken much action about and they don't really believe in? It's pretty small, right? It's pretty small. And then what do the results look like from that? What do the results look like from that? They're pretty non-existent, and this is the reference or the result. So of course there's not really much result to back it up, to steer it in the other direction. So they kind of, in this part of the cycle, they're saying, I thought as much. Does that make sense? Or, I told you so, or I didn't think it would work. All of that stuff. And that's quite negative and it's quite doomy, gloomy, but that's most people's reality. And of course, this then feeds back into the belief, and then they have even less belief than they might have had before, and of course the whole thing just carries on and perpetuates, and of course ultimately just goes nowhere until the thing just dissembles. Now, jump to somebody who has a very positive belief set about trading, somebody who ultimately believes I'm going to make a lot of money doing this. I don't look at, I'm not focusing on what I can lose here. I appreciate, there could be some losses, but I'm focusing on, making myself a nice mountain of money from this, and they have a very positive belief set. What is the action like that they take from that? How much? Unlimited is the answer. It's unlimited. There's no limitation to the amount of action they take. It's unlimited. That's the point. It's unmeasured, unlimited. It's just whatever it takes to get there. It's like saying to somebody, at what point do you give up teaching your child? I have a 10-month-old. What point do you give up teaching your child to walk? The answer is you don't. Does that make sense? My son at the moment, he's crawling, commando crawling, very fast. But he's not walking yet. But I'm not giving up. And it's going to take months before he's like first leg and does the Frankenstein walk. It's going to take a while before that happens. But I'm not going to give up, and nor do you give up. How many parents in the room? Did you give up on teaching them to walk? Of course not. You do it until you get there. The reason you do it until you get there is because you have a lot of references, a lot of evidence that other people walk. Is that true? Yes. So you never give up, you just do it until it's unlimited, right? And so the resource is leveraged, well, you give it all the time and whatever it needs, you just make it happen. So this person, if they ultimately believe this is going to happen, then the action they take here is not just massive, it's unlimited. They do what needs to be done, as opposed to doing what feels good. A big distinction. If you want results in life, you've got to do what needs to be done, as opposed to what feels good. What do most people do? What feels good? I do if it feels good. If it doesn't feel good, I don't want to do it. Does that make sense? That's most people. That's why most people, when they trade a trade which looks a bit fun. Like it's a gamble, like it's a little punt. Because it feels good in the moment. Often that ends in disaster, doesn't feel very good for very long. But they do. Does that make sense? So the point is, you've got to do what needs to be done if you want real results, not just what feels good. Or never what feels good, generally. So the action here is unlimited. The resource is leveraged. Again, it's just whatever it needs. It's unlimited. And what are the results like? Yeah, they're incredible. You compare them to not doing it, and they're incredible. It's life-changing, completely different. And then, of course, how does this feed back into the original belief? Completely reinforces it, 100% reinforces it. Beliefs. For you to believe something, you need evidential proof. You need evidential, real-life proof. And that's got to come more. I can't even give you that from the stage. I can't even give it to you from the stage. You have to trade with one of my traders. You have to do that. Because that's the real world. Does that make sense? See, if I just stopped and we didn't give you some coaching with one of the traders, it would be kind of half baking the cake. The reason my firm is called Knowledge to Action is because we give the knowledge bit, but then we've got to get you active doing it, because the knowledge unused is completely wasted. You've just done a seminar. But we've got to get you not just understanding the principles, actually integrating the principles and knowing them, which means you're doing them, presupposes you're doing them. But the key is to get you doing them correctly and getting you the benefits from them. The belief part has to be built right. We always say, unless you do the conception part right, you can never give birth to a good trader. Does that make sense? So we've got to make sure that we have great sex. That's the key. So that's this part. That's this part up front. And I promise you, my traders are very good looking and very nice. No. So you need to spend time with them, and most importantly, not just spend time with them when you're learning to trade with them, but you'll witness them trading, and it will inspire you to do more. And that's important, because I ask myself the question, when I'm talking to all these people, I'm thinking, why are the guys at my house, who are just friends and people I'd literally bumped into in pubs and things, why are these people who are at my house trading, making money, how come they're doing it, but these guys are not doing it? And it's quite simple. I had a routine. Every single person that came to my house would sit with me for an hour, watch me trade, get excited, get enthused, have their references and their reality built, and then, of course, what they want to do, they want to go do it. Does that make sense? I didn't flip them through a textbook and say, do you fancy this idea of trading? I mean, we'd just sit there and do it, and they'd be like, wow, that's amazing. Show me how to do that. What do I need to do? Where do I get the software? I mean, it was they'd be up and running within 40 minutes. They'd have downloaded the trading software. They'd be up before 10 o'clock. They'd be ready to go, They'd be calling their bank, getting money switched across into their trading account, and they would be up and running the same day. Does that make sense? Because they had it in front of them. It's like, if I showed you a box and you put $10 in and $20 came out the side, give me a box. Give me the box. I want the box. It's a simple science, right? They sit there, watch me trade. They're like, I want to do that. And it doesn't take them any time. Then I asked these guys at the dinner party, I said, how many did you actually see the guy trade? They're like, well, we never saw that. I'm like, well, you know what? Here's the problem. The real voice, and that's the tiny little voice inside of you, is saying a different story to the voice that you're defending your belief with right now. Is that true? And some of the people in the room said, yeah, you're absolutely right. I said, and I'll tell you what happens is you guys continue the way you're going. I said, what's going to happen is you're going to realize that this meeting up and having drinks and all the rest of it's really going nowhere. And some of you have already got to the point where you're never going to trade. How many people is that true for? And about half the room said, yeah, that's probably me. I went, wow. And I said, so they were like, well, what do we need to do to change it, right? What do we need to do? They all got really enthused. What do we need to do to change it? And I said, well, first of all, you need to stop hanging around with each other. They were like, what do you mean? I said, well, look, you know, sure, be in connection with each other, but you guys are all singing off the same hymn sheet here. You're all non-traders hanging out with non-traders. I said, that's not going to help anyone. Does that make sense? You know, you're all sharing each other's negativity. You're all sharing each other's worries and concerns, and you're all holding back together. So you're just you're like a massive mother's tea morning. You know, all sitting there like, you know. I said, so you need to get around some traders, some people are doing some different things. And I said, the quickest way you can shift this, if you want to change this as quickly as possible, and everything I'm saying right now is critical. It's so critical. Because after you leave here on Sunday night, you need to be with people that are going to move you to get active. Because you're going to know the strategies. We're going to do that. But then we've got to make sure that you actually do it. That's the key part. And look at a group this size, there'll be people that will fall off. So we've got to make sure that we support you and hold you, but you've also got to make sure that you do what needs to be done in order to get to where you need to go. And that often means committing yourself to a higher purpose. One of the girls that attended my training program a few years ago, she's now one of the traders on our trading floor. She's Australian, actually. She's from Melbourne. She's half Greek, half Australian. And she came on our program a few years ago, and she said, I need to find, I was doing this talk. I said, look, you know, people go to seminars. I said, do you know how many people go to seminars around the world and take action from it? I go, guess what percentage? You guys have a guess. Okay, have a guess. That's right, it's less than 10%. Less than 10% of the people that actually go to learn something as life-changing as this will do nothing with it. And they go, oh yeah, that didn't really work for me. No, you didn't work for you. That was the problem. Because you didn't know how to motivate yourself to do it. And most of the time, people need to have a little bit of pain to get to where they need to go. Does that make sense? So one of the things Vicky did was she lived in now if you know what a Greek community is like, everyone knows everyone, and it's, you know, and it's all about, you know, it's all about how you're regarded amongst your peers. So this girl, this is 4 years ago, she got these business cards printed up, and on it said financial trader, right, her name, and then financial trader. And then she gave them to all her family and friends. She goes, look, you did that talk about locking the door behind you. She goes, listen, I'll never live it down if I don't step up to the plate on this with a bunch of Greekies around me. So I'm going to be screwed. And it worked. You know, every day they say to her, how's your trading going? And she had to be trading to do it. So I implore you to really think about that part of the process, because you know, when it comes to you leaving here and you've got these tools, we've then got to get you very active. What you're going to like about trading foreign exchange is you can get there pretty quickly. So you don't have to wait around a long time. There is unending opportunity in the Forex markets. There's lots and lots of leverage. And as I'm going to talk to you about, you can really risk manage it. So in terms of a tool, I personally don't believe that there is a better tool that you could be using right now to be making money. You won't, and what you'll also need to appreciate is that where you sit in the world physically, being here in Sydney, is one of the best places to be sitting trading the Forex markets, because we always trade off the Greenwich Mean Time, the GMT London charts. And what you'll find is when a lot of the trading opportunities are created, it's either first thing in the morning for you here or late thing at night. It's kind of swapped the other way around at home. It's okay for us as well, because we can trade it from there. But here, it means that first thing in the morning, 7, 8 o'clock, you've got these incredible trades which are all just ready. You can just plop on, and they're completely managed by orders. But it means what has to happen is for this new person in you to evolve, a good trader that makes money, there's a number of characteristics that need to come to be. First of all, we need to make sure that you create a ritual. So please write that down. A ritual has to be installed as early as possible. This is something that mustn't be left. Even if you decide, and as I have suggested, that you paper trade your Forex trading just for a few weeks to get used to the trading account, the trading platform. You've got to create a ritual, because then it becomes a habit, and then you just don't have to think about it and you'll do it automatically. But you want to be creating a ritual at some point in the day where you spend at least 30 minutes to an hour either analysing and finding your trades or paper trading your trades. But you've got to find that, and you've got to do that as early as possible. So that's a Monday task to do from following this weekend. That's a Monday task. If you get to Wednesday and you haven't done it, the likelihood of you being successful doing this literally halves. So it's literally an immediate, as soon as Monday comes, you've got to implement straight away. What's interesting also is when you're making money, here's the thing, here's what people want. So here's your equity growth curve of your money in your trading account. People kind of want this, okay? That's what they want. So they get to like Wednesday and they're like, you know, I started with 5,000. Why am I not at 100,000 already? What's going on here? They're like this. Not happy. So what I want you to realize is that the equity curve, regardless of what instrument you use, well, you'll find it'll be a bit quicker with Forex by a long way. Is it kind of goes a bit like this. That's how it goes. That's where you start doing more holidays. So here is this part of time here. You know, when you start, let's say you start trading with 10,000 or 20,000, it's smaller money. When you're getting up here, which is much bigger money, of course, it's going to grow a lot more because it's a compounding effect, isn't it? So this period of time here is what I call faith. Okay, this is where you've got to have a little bit of faith. Okay, for some of you, this could be months. And for others of you, if you start a really small account, it could be a year or so, or a couple of years. But this period of time here is where you've got to have a little bit of faith. And what we're going to do throughout your coaching is we are going to always measure. We're going to always measure performance, or how much money you're making in pips. So please write that down. We measure performance in pips. We measure performance in pips. Okay, so not in monetary terms, because what we want to try and do early on is desensitize you. We want to desensitize you from money. Desensitize you from it. Obviously, always having an appreciation for it from a risk management standpoint, but we want to desensitize you from it. So when you have weeks where you make $20,000 in a week, we just want to know that that's just 100 or 200 or 300 pips, or whatever the pips is. So really, it's just a proportion of your trading account that you're making in pips. You might be making 100 pips a week at $20 a pip. Okay, well that's great. That's $2,000 a week. But if it's $2, it's $200. It doesn't really matter. The point is, we're counting pips, and the purpose of that is the desensitization to money. If we desensitize it early on, then it allows you to ratchet up your trading account very quickly. If you look at what people do who lose at trading, they just look at their daily P&L. They look at their daily profit and loss. And that's how they manage their emotions, and that's how they manage their trading. And it's always a fast route to failure. So, for example, they could have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 trades running simultaneously. One trade could be like a trade which is, got a 5-day lifespan. The next trade could have a 5-hour lifespan, depending on a different strategy. Another trade could have a week-long lifespan. And in fact, they're completely different trades that you're looking at completely different times. Does that make sense? And what the gambler will do is they'll look at all the the guy who's going to fail. He'll look at all those trades and go, well, how much have I made today? Oh God, I'm down $100, and just kill all the trades and go and go off to lunch. Does that make sense? And they're not thinking in terms of the individual, managing each individual trade to a pip profit, and then running that through. And that's what we're going to get you to do. That's how we're going to start that process. So when I left here, back in May, and we did the National Achievers Congress, I did a little bit of trading. I wanted to record some trades, and I'm going to show you. Some of you have seen this video. I'm just going to, for those of you who saw me in May, they haven't, because I did this I think in June, July time, something like that. I wanted to record some trades just to show you what's possible in a short period of time, and get you thinking about where the next level for you is. So let's just take a look at this now. You're going to learn to trade pivots this weekend as one of the strategies.
Okay, so we're looking at a pivot breakout now on British pound against the US dollar. Notice how the British pound against the US dollar has ranged throughout this, what we call R.5 to R1. And as British pound now breaks through here, as it's now doing, we're going to take a long position, which means we're going to buy British pound, and we're going to look to run up here. And that means running towards the R2. We're just really going to look to take 20 points. We're going to have a 20-point stop, and we're going to have a 20-point target. So a simple 20-pointer. Let's go place that trade.
Okay, so it looks like we have cable at about 61.68. We're going to go 1,000 a point. We have a 20-point stop. That's 20,000. And yeah, we'll happily buy that. Good. And we can see here, that's good. So 1,000 a point. Our average price, our current price here is 161.89. We can see we're up 1,000, and the trade is moving. Now we're happy to take that 20-point stop. That's about 20,000 risk on a 2 million account. That's 1%. So we're happy with that. We are in the trade, we'll now wait for the position to see if we have some movement. And if we have movement, you'll see it move quite rapidly. So we have a couple of points. We have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Expected to pull a little bit back off that level, bounce, and then continue moving. Notice here as I extend out the line here, we've got the trade registered here. Current price 61.70. P&L is 2,000, now 3,000. So this is going to move around. It's the deal price on the trade, as we can certainly see here, was 61.68, and the trade is steadily moving along. And all we're looking really now to do is pull 20 points. Now the way we'll do this trade is on this platform I'll hit close deal in a second, which will then bring up the trade ticket. It's a lumpy trade, 1,000 British pounds a point. So that means that we need to make sure that the brokers are aware that I'm trying to exit the trade. So I'll hit close deal, and it will allow me to bring up the deal ticket. And then I'll literally just hit close, or I'll hit obviously buy to close. Sell to close my long position. So we can see this is that pullback I was talking about. It's coming back a little bit now, just testing that level. What I was expected to do would be bounce, and immediately now start to move back upwards, and that would be my expectation. So again, I'm up a point, 1,000. So not a lot right now, but I expect this bounce, and it's now starting to bounce upwards. So back to 3,000, 4,000. And really now just waiting to close the deal. When we get over the 20-point mark, where I should be able to see about £20,000 of profit, I'm literally going to start to hit the close deal button and pull this trade off the table. I'd expect the run around now, given that it's broken now, clearly gone through that level. Here we can see it's 12,013. Here we are. We're up to the 21,000 mark. So I now want to exit this trade. So I'll be now moving my mouse. See if it can hold this level. Let's close the deal here now. And see if we can lock that 20 points. So it's holding 22,000. It's not going to move any more. Let's click the close deal, and let's get this trade priced up. I'm waiting for the broker now to pull my price. So you can see the price has moved around, and here I go, and it's going to hit sell at 20 points is what I'm after, which is around this level here, and we'll take the trade just about here. Let's tick it up to 20. See if we can capture 20. There it is. Okay. Oh, we got 19. Okay, that's close enough. So there we are. That's how you make £19,000 in about 3 or 4 minutes. So there we go. Let's move on and have a look at see if we can do another one.
All right. Good trade. Yes or no? Oh, okay. Good. Thank you. Now look. Really, it's a 20, well actually it wasn't even a 20-point trade, it was a 19-pip trade, that's all it was. Does that make sense? So how much did I have in my, it was £2 million in the trading account, it was a little spread betting account in England, and so all I did was I risked 1% of the trade to make 1%, right? And there was a strategy that was used, which is a highly probable pivot trading strategy, which you're going to learn. And when the pivot breaks, which we'll show you, it's all going to happen, you're going to learn how to take 20 pips. Now, to start with, 20 pips on your account is going to look like $200. Does that make sense? That's just how it starts. And when you have a little bit of faith with that, so you can't do a lot with $200, other than maybe go dinner or something. But that's not the important thing. I've got to get you thinking about leaving the money in the trading account and not extracting the money from the trading account. You've got to think in terms of the compound growth as well as the trading result. Does this make sense? So I would like you to write down a rule for me, which is we never extract money for at least 12 months from the trading account. We never extract money for at least 12 months from our trading account. In other words, we've got to give it a chance to really grow. Okay, really grow. Now, seeing somebody make £19,000, which is like 40,000 Aussie dollars in 4 minutes, that's like $10,000 a minute, that's quite cool, yeah? But it's okay, you don't get there. See, I snapshot you to that for what reason only? Evidence and belief, and to show you what's possible. Now, you've got to understand, I've gotten there over a period of time. Does that make sense? So that bores the pants off me. I want much more than that. But I've done it over a longer period of time. When you have never earned 40,000 Australian dollars before in 4 minutes, if you've never done that, then all you've got is contrast effect, haven't you? But hopefully the contrast effect is motivating in some way. That's why I do it. But when you've done it over a period of time, you're completely unfazed by it. Does that make sense? And so it's a building process. Please write this down. Ordinary things done consistently, produce extraordinary results. Ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. Here's what I've learned about traders and trading and the whole thing. Everyone loves a fast buck. Everyone loves making a fast buck. Draw this in your notes. This is what you want. And this is where you are. This is what you want. And this is where you are. Now the problem is, there's two different types of time. There's two different types, or should I say definitions of time. There's what we call vertical time, and there's what we call horizontal time. Now horizontal time is where we take a little bit of time every day just to build something. Okay, a little bit of time every day to build something. Vertical time is where we try and do something in what we call crisis mode. So you can put vertical time in brackets crisis. Vertical time or crisis. Now the problem is this, most people manage their lives in crisis. Write that down. Most people manage their lives in crisis. And that's why they don't have good results in things. It doesn't have to be about making money, it can be about anything. Spirituality, relationship, anything. See, most people manage their life in crisis mode, which means that they wait till they've put on too much weight, and then they have to go for emergency dieting, right? Or they're really, really broke, and then they have to go for yet another loan. That's what we call a 24-hour, holy hell, we've got to change this around and we've got to do it now. Does that make sense? So in other words, people let things kind of drop, and to the point where suddenly they're at a place called threshold. They're a place called threshold, and that's when they change and they do something about it. Does that make sense? Here's the problem with most people. Most people's thresholds are too low. Write that down. Here's the problem. Most people's thresholds are too low. Their thresholds are too low. So in other words, what most people will put up with is too high. They'll put up with too much. They'll put up with too much. Their threshold is too low. If you want to make a lot of money in trading, you've got to have a very high threshold. Right? I'm not going to stand for any less than Does that make sense? But most people's threshold is so low, so they'll go on an emergency diet when they're nearly dead, and they'll go fix their finances via an easyloan.com, and they'll have an easyloan.com party that night because they got an extra $20,000. So everyone comes over and they eat half of it because they're having an easyloan.com party. See, this is the problem. Most people try and get what they want. This is here. They try and fix it in one step. And this is called operating out of crisis time. This is called operating out of crisis time. It never yields good results. What they say, he who wants to be rich in a day will be hanged in a year, right? So, that was Leonardo da Vinci. So the answer is this. We've got to do it in little steps. We've got to do it in little steps. We've got to do it in little steps, but these steps have got to be measured. These steps must be measured. And here comes my conversation about setting goals. People who don't have goals don't have anything. They don't have anything. If you ask most people what do they want, what do they tell you? They say, I don't know, or they tell you the things they don't want. So if you say to people, what do you actually want? They say, well, I'll tell you what I don't want. I don't want to be working for him no more. Or I don't want to be working for her no more. Or they tell you the things that they don't want. So where is their focus in their brain going? It's all going on the things that they don't want. So what are they actually going to get lots more of? the things they don't want, because they haven't put a plan in place about changing it. They're just moaning about it. But their brain doesn't know whether they're happy or sad about it. All their brain knows, their unconscious brain knows, is that they're focusing on it. Does that make sense? People who focus on problems get more what? Problems. See, the problem with problems is if you don't have a goal, your life becomes a problem, because all you focus on is the problem. But if your life has a goal, then knocking a few problems or challenges off along the way is easy when you're in pursuit of the goal. Does that make sense? So with trading, more than anything, we must have goals. And we're going to do an exercise tomorrow about setting goals and then how to measure what needs to be done in order to get them. And this is what we're going to do throughout the process. And we can speed this up. This doesn't have to be slow. This process doesn't have to be slow. We can make it really fast. We can get you coached. You'll be spending time with the coaches, and they will help accelerate you. Let me tell you what the difference between training. I'm going to train you this weekend. I'll coach you a little bit as well, because I'll say some things which will move you. But this is training ultimately. Coaching is different. Let me explain to you what the difference between training and coaching is. Training is imparting information that's useful that you can go use. Coaching gets you to use it. Does that make sense? There's a difference, a big difference there. So a coach's job is to set goals with you and then get you to do what needs to be done rather than just talking about it. And the problem with this, or the problem with most folk, is here. This is what we call heaven. Please write this down. This is what we call hell. And this is like flames. And this is what we call purgatory. And this is people. Now here's the problem with most people, most situations. Most people don't live in hell. That's the problem. Most people don't live in hell. The interesting thing is very few people live in, this is all metaphoric of course. I don't want to get into a religious debacle. But in heaven, there's only a few dudes up there. It's very unclustered. It's very unclustered up here. It's very unclustered there. This is really busy. This is purgatory. And really in hell, there's not much going on down there really either. There's not much going on down there either. What does that mean? Well, this is in terms of coaching and how we coach people to make money trading. We don't train you, don't expect to be trained on your coaching. Okay, when we coach you, we won't train you whatsoever. All we're going to do is, grab you and move you. That's the idea. See, most people, they'll stay here. I'll tell you a funny story. I got some really nutcases on my trading floor, okay? Actually, this is being cut to DVD, so now they're going to know. So I got some nutters on my trading floor, and they're all interesting characters, okay? And they're really fun. Most people I teach to trade, some of them come from a financial background, but a lot of them are from completely different walks of life. This one girl, she's a musician, a songwriter. She's French, okay? So she's really French. Do you know what I mean? Anybody here know any really French people? Yeah. So she's really French, okay? Which means that she's how do I put it? How do I DVD safe this? She's kind of charismatic, and she's just different. She's really different. Yeah, she's kind of passionate, I think's the word. She's passionate. And anyway, but she's a brilliant trader. Her trading results are through the roof. The girl is unbelievable. I don't know, is there any musicians in the room? Is there any musicians in the room? Okay, great. If I could just ask one of my team, just to close the door here. It's like I'm getting a lot of lawnmower man in my ear, which is not going to sound great on the cut. So so thank you very much. So she's very passionate, and I'll give you an understanding of how passionate she is. Her trading results, the kind of money she makes as a trader, without casting dispersions on her music creativity and ability, she's just doing ridiculous numbers that she's never done before. And so her beliefs about what's possible in trading have suddenly gone through the roof in the last 18 months. So what's interesting about her is she wants the people that she spends time coaching to experience the same thing. Does that make sense? It's like, come on, let's do this thing. If you've ever gone snowboarding or wakeboarding or something, it's like the guys that are teaching you, they want you to get up to speed really quickly so you can all go have fun. Does that make sense? They want you to kind of ride alongside as quick as possible. So she wants the guys that she's, otherwise it's really dull, you know, sitting, have you funded your trading account yet? No, I haven't, I'm doing it next week. It's a really boring conversation. It's much more fun to trade alongside, you know, get people enthused, make some money with them, you know. That makes the coach feel like they're doing a really great job and they have a lot of fun doing that. So I'm on the trading floor in London, and this is a few months ago, and it's very early in the morning. And she's coaching at one of the, because we're based in London, so some of the people come to the trading floor physically, and they'll sit with one of the traders there. Not most of the people do it like you guys are doing it remotely, because we teach everybody via remote web conference. But some people who live local come in, and this guy sat there on the trading floor, and she is going like off the freaking charts, this girl. So she's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? We talked about some trades last week. You placed none of them. And I'm like, holy shit, she's really going at it. So, and I'm noticing, because last week, the week that she was trading, I noticed that there was a lot of trades on, because one of the strategies we teach is called income generator, which you're going to learn. I know it was a particularly strong week for the income generator. There was a load of trades that came up, and of course, the way this works is we're going to teach you strategies. So there's zero discretion. You're not going to have any, you're not going to have to go, oh, should I trade this or not? It's either there, you put it on, and if it's not, you don't. Does that make sense? That's what strategy-led training is all about. Strategy-led trading is all about. So anyway, it's one of those weeks where there's a lot of income generators come off. Like, it was an amazing week for those income generators. So that, you know, if your average graduate is looking to make 100 or a couple of hundred pips a week, this was a week where like 2,500 to 3,000 pips were made on income generators. So it was a really good week. So she's had a really good week. She will take any income generator that comes along because she's really into it. So she's had an amazing week. The guy she's coaching, you know, he's on his like second coaching session. She wants to know he's doing really well because he didn't place any of the trades. So she's going off the freaking chart. So she's red-faced. She's like, what's the matter with you? And then she prints out her trading account. She goes, I made this, I made this, I made this, I made this, I made this. What did you make? Nothing. This poor sod, okay, he's 50-odd years old if he's a day, okay? He's like semi-retired going, oh my God. And she is freaking out, you know, in front of this guy. And I just thought, maybe I should get involved. No, I'm not going to get involved. So I kind of stand back and I just watch this whole thing. Well, to cut a long story short, she did what needed to be done. Because 6 weeks later, he had his first month where he'd done over 850 pips. Now, I guarantee you, had she not have gone on at that guy in that way, he would have still been flicking around, wondering when he's going to place a trade. Does that make sense? Because when people who don't have results, write this down, people who don't have results have one thing. They have friggin' stories. They have lots of good, well-practiced stories, and they're so good at it. They're so good at it. People who have results don't have stories. They just have results. Action takers have results. People who talk have loads of good stories because they're so used to talking, they've got loads of good stories to talk about. So this is what she did metaphorically, if I can kind of draw you to the diagram. Most people are here, and this is what I call purgatory. This is purgatory. Do you guys know what I mean by purgatory? It's like between heaven and hell. It's where your soul gets trapped. You know, it's not a good place to be, apparently. But anyway, so purgatory there is, and this is where people say, you know, you say to people, how's everything going? And people go, oh yeah, it's okay. Is that good? I've been practicing that. I have been practicing that. Or for the British version, that's okay. Yeah, so people say, it's okay, right? And what is it not when people say that? It's not freaking okay. It's just they don't want to say that because they feel bad and they're worried about feeling down here. Does that make sense? So if you say to me, how's it going, and it's not going well, they go, it's going terrible. It's absolutely disgraceful how I'm leading my life right now. I've given such opportunity as a child and I've completely ballsed it up. I'm a disgrace. A disgrace to my parents, a disgrace to the money my father spent on education, and quite frankly, probably should exit the gene pool soon. They don't say that. They say it's okay. And that's the problem. Because when they say it's okay, they don't get to go to here. And if they don't get to go to here, that also means they never get to go to here. Let me tell you the route to here. If you want to get to here, and this is you know, a metaphor for the things that you think you want, or the things that we want. Often, there's very few people go this route. Very few people go this route. Most people go this route. And this, you'll find, is an incredible springboard to get you straight up to here. Amazing how it works. It's amazing. So to drop through this level here, to drop through this level here, to break what the job is we've got to do is we've got to break the floor of purgatory. Does that make sense? We have to take the floor out, drop down, bounce off the springboard, and then get to where we want to go. That's the route that we need to do. And the answer is get honest. Okay, get honest, and then get disturbed. Okay, it's the only route. There are other routes, which you can sort of kind of crawl your way up this way, some people. Some people go this way automatically, but most people, they need pain as a strong motivator. They need to know how bad things are, and they need to get really honest, and then they need to get disturbed. That often we find is one of the fastest routes to getting up to here, which means that, and we're going to do an exercise on it tomorrow, so I'm not going to steal the thunder on it, but it means that we've got to set some real goals for what we really want, then really compare that to where we are, and then look at what that looks like in terms of what we need to do to get there. Does that make sense? And it doesn't, it can be a nice fun process, but it has to happen. Because then what we're going to do is then we're going to tie the trading strategies that you're going to learn tomorrow to effectively producing those results. And when you do those two things together, you find it works really well. If you just do trading strategies on its own and it's not linked up to anything in your mind, what often happens is people just sort of screw around for a few weeks and then don't really go anywhere. So it's really important, in my experience and opinion, is to set the goal, to figure out where we are, and then figure out exactly what needs to be done in order to get to those things, and in a measured way. And if we can measure it, we can certainly track where we need to be at a particular time, and then we can adjust. Does that make sense? If anybody knows anything about navigation, you never go in a straight line, right? You're always off course for 99% of the time. You're just adjusting. And that's exactly the same with this. So that's what coaching is about. It's about getting you to do the things that need to be done. And we're going to certainly do that with you. But now let's talk about foreign exchange. You guys ready for that? Yes or no? Yes. Good. Everybody stand up. I just want to make sure you're in a suitable state. Please stretch up. Over to the left, over to the right, and back, and moan, and forward. Shake your little tush to the person behind, give him some love. Give 2 high fives and go, yeehaw! Great, grab a seat. Okay, good. Grab a seat, grab a seat, grab a seat. Whew. Okay, so look, we're here to learn about making money. Is this true, yes or no? Yes. Good. We're going to use a tool called the Forex markets. Now, I was very active across a bunch of different, I used to work for a bunch of different Forex providers. One of the big ones out in this part of the world was Thomas Cook Commercial Foreign Exchange. I remember I set up a trading floor for them, an online trading floor for them back in like 97, I think it was, on Kent Street here in Sydney, okay, in the Ernst & Young building. So I've been here before. And Forex, since that period of time, has gone crazy for people like you and I, normal people, private investors, people who want to make more money using tools which give them more leverage. And the Forex markets, it's in terms of the amount of time the private investor has been actively trading this on personal trading accounts is very small. It's very, very small. This has not been, unlike other markets like stock markets and bond markets and futures markets, the amount of time that private traders like yourselves have been accessing these markets via the use of the internet and online tools is respectively very small. So you are very early into this, despite us being 2009 now. This is a relatively new thing. Now, what I'm going to teach you over the next 2 days here is I'm going to divide the time we have together like this. We're first of all going to look at what are the things you need to be aware of, like on the battlefield. Does that make sense? Like, if you think of this as like you're kind of like a money army sniper person, okay? And you're out there looking for these little opportunities. And we're going to show you exactly how to set these up. But also you've got to be aware of the terrain. I like to think of it like, it's like giving you a yacht, okay? And it's a beautiful yacht and it works every time and it's great. But some days, when you look out to sea, it's just too rough. And it doesn't make sense to take the boat out into the choppy water. Does that make sense? So the art of foreign exchange actually is to know which days to do nothing and which days to get involved. And we're gonna walk you through a process so you understand that, okay? And we're going to simplify it. I believe when there is clarity, I believe people have a lot of power and they can get on and get results. The biggest challenge you'll ever have is being confused. Because confused people don't take action, they sit there rigid. Does that make sense? And if you're ever rigid in something and you're not taking action, you're not following through, it's generally because it's not because you're not motivated or whatever, it's just because you don't have enough information. That's often the key. So I'm going to make sure that today is Environment Day. You're going to learn what you need to know to assess the environment, the trading arena that you're in. And then tomorrow we're going to show you exactly the strategy so you know exactly how to get into the positions and make money. It will require minimal discretion. Minimal discretion. So the route to trading success is the following. I'd like you to write this down. The route to trading success is kind of a three-step process. Number one, it's risk management. Okay, risk management. And we talked a lot about keeping risk to 1%. Number two, it's about using back-tested. Back-tested means that we've analyzed the effectiveness of a certain trading strategy over many years of data to see how really effective it is and make a projection about how effective we think it's going to be in the future. Does that make sense? And it has to be back-tested over good quality data. So using back-tested, effective strategy. And then third along, so notice this is kind of moving up, third along is trader discretion. Now, please notice the order. Please notice the order of these things. So trader discretion. Being able to take a discretionary approach based on what the environment is telling you. Being able to take a discretionary approach based on what the environment is telling you. So number one, risk management. Okay. Before you can even place a trade, you've got to be so good at understanding what risk management is all about. And this is where most beginners or intermediates or even people who've been trading for a while kind of screw up. Because they misunderstand trader risk management, they don't understand trade sizing, and ultimately what they do is they're just risking too much of their capital on any one particular trade. And when they do that, that's where all the problems come from. It's why people lose in casinos, and it's why people lose in trading. So it's critically important that we understand risk management first. When I speak at certain conferences, people tell me they understand risk management and they just want to learn some more strategies. And often what you'll notice is that if you print out their trading account, I always say this, if you want to see the truth, press print. If you want to see the truth, press print. Okay, please write that down. If you want to see the truth, press print, because it's there in black and white, because otherwise there's just generally a story surrounding it, which is not the truth. So if you want to see the truth, press print. And when you print out somebody's trading account, you'll see, if you look at their losing trades, forget their winning trades, but if you look at their losing trades, it will tell you how much of their capital they're risking on any one particular trade. So the first thing I do when we coach somebody who's been trading before and they need help or they need pulling back on track, is we ask them to print out their trading records. And what they'll do is they'll print out their trading records, and all we just do is we look for the losing trades, and then we say, is that losing trade more than 1% of their account? And if it is more than 1% of their account, we know clearly that they may understand what risk management is, but they don't freaking know it. Does that make sense? And this, you can look, I do this with traders who have been trading for 10 years, Mr. Secker. I've been trading for 10 years. People are very certain about that. I've been trading for 10 years. I go, good. And they say, I know all about risk management. Nothing you can tell me about risk management. Risk management software. I know everything about it. I wrote the book on risk management, they tell me. So I go, good. Let me see your book. I said, more importantly, give me your trading account. I want to see your book. I don't want to see your software. Let's see your press print. You want to see the truth? Press print. I want to see the truth, press print. So we press print, and then of course we go through the trading account of this guy. And then what do you see is that some of the trades are risking and losing more than 1%. Do you think that's possible? Do you think I see that? Like all the time. So I know, first of all, I've got this line in my head. Because first of all, I always go, I never believe what anybody says. I just want to print. I press print first, and then we look at what the truth is. Does that make sense? So just print. So I don't believe what they say. I say, okay, fine, yeah, you're having a challenge. Because I know in trading, if someone's not making money consistently trading the forex, I know it's somewhere along this freaking line. Does that make sense? That's where it is. It's one of these places. They're either here, they're either here, they're either here. And notice it starts here, it goes to here, and then it goes here. So this is the journey. So the first thing I always want to know is, well, first of all, do they understand risk? Because trading is risk management. The two go hand in hand. That's what they are. That's what differentiates a financial trader from just a gambler. A gambler goes into a casino, plays blackjack, starts losing. What does the gambler do when he starts losing? He starts doubling up. And his risk percentage of his account has gone from, say, 1% to suddenly 10%. And within a few hands later, he wonders why he's been blown off the table like every other schmuck that walked in there and emptied his pockets onto the table and then walked out again. That's what people do in casinos. True or false? That's true. A financial trader is going to make it. He's got to understand risk management, which presupposes that if he loses some of his capital, his bet size per trade must decrease. And if he starts winning consistently and building his capital, his trade size must increase. It's as simple as that. If I got into a losing streak, I need to be able to cut the cake finer until I re-establish myself and get back on track. Does that make sense? If I kept my risk consistent, whilst my account got smaller, then it wouldn't take long to get me wiped off the table. Does that follow? So I've got to keep everything at 1%, but the point of the matter is I've got to make sure that's 1% of what the account balance is now, increasing or decreasing. And so people say, I understand risk, I wrote the book on it, got the software, okay, good. I print out the account, we go through the losing trades, and then I say, okay, so let me have a look here. You got $50,000 in your trading account, all right? Which means how much can they lose at 1% on any one trade? $500. How come you lost $1,280 on this trade? What do you think comes next? Story. Story comes next. And the story will be one of the following flavors and varieties. Get ready so you can recognize them. I thought this trade would have moved better than it did. I was pretty certain about it, so I thought it was worth risking the extra. Is that a story? Yeah, that's called gambling because we don't know what's going to happen in the markets at any one time. If we did, we shouldn't be trading. We should be running the universe. Right? It's pretty simple science. If we know what's going to happen next on any one trade, we should be running the universe. So we don't. So then the other thing, so that's the often we get that one, which is, well, I thought this would have gone well and looked like a good trade. Trades never look good. They never look bad. They're just what they are. We never know what's going to happen next. Most of the time, a good-looking trade turns out to be bad. I'm going to talk to you why that is in a little while. And I'm going to talk about the fallacy of the good trade. Now, a good trade or a bad trade. Let me talk to you about what a good trade is and what a bad trade is. Please write this down. A good trade is a trade which either makes money or loses money. People find this really difficult to deal with. A good trade either makes money or loses money. You can make money or lose money. It doesn't make a difference. You can't control the universe. You can make money or lose money, but it follows the risk strategy plan exactly. It follows the risk strategy plan exactly, and it doesn't waver from it. It has no human emotion in it. That's a good trade. A bad trade can make money or lose money. A bad trade can make money or lose money, but will differ wildly sometimes from the risk and strategy plan. That is the definition of a bad trade. So what you should be aware of is that a good trade can make and lose money, and so can a bad trade. But how we define a good trade generally in the populace is what? A good trade is one that makes money, and a bad trade is one that loses money. Is that true? That's how most people define it, isn't it? They go, oh, that's a good trade I just did there. I made $2,000. Does that make sense? That was a bad trade. I lost $1,000. The fact of whether you made money or lost money is immaterial from now on. What is it? Immaterial. It makes no difference. Whether you make money at the end of the month is what it's all about. Is that true? Yeah, you're going to lose on some trades, but the only bit that you guys can manage, is what you do up front. Because after you press the button, who knows what happens? It's in the land of the gods then. Is that true? Yeah. But if we're using the strategy, we're risk managing correctly, you have placed a good trade, you're done. It's over. But if you place a bad trade, and then that goes and makes money, ooh, now you're in trouble. It's not the good trade that you place that loses money, or the good trade that you place that makes money. It's the bad trade that you place, by my original definition, a bad trade being one that is inconsistent with the strategy or risk management plan. It's the bad trade that you place that makes money that will wipe you out as a trader. Please write that down. It's the bad trade. You know what the definition of a good and a bad trade is now, people? Yes or no? Yes. So it's the bad trade that you place that makes money that will wipe you out as a trader. Because it will tell your brain, maybe I can risk 5% once in a while. Now here's the problem with risking 5% once in a while. Let's say I taught you a trading strategy which was 80% successful, back-tested over 10 years, and you can completely rely on it, hang your hat on it. It's 80% successful trading strategy. Would you be interested in learning this trading strategy, yes or no? Yes. Of course you would. So it's 80% successful. Now what does that presuppose? Well, it presupposes I have 100 trades, 20 of them have to go wrong. Is that true? Yes. The question then becomes, when do those 20 trades go wrong? Is it going to be 1 every 5? Unlikely. It's going to happen sporadically, isn't it? It's going to, the distribution is going to be placed purely on randomness. So does that also presuppose that you could, if 20 are going to go wrong in every 100, you could get 10 wrong in a row? Could that happen? Yes. And if you allowed yourself, because you placed lots of bad trades and you told yourself that was okay, if you placed 5% on any of those 10 trades, could that happen? Yes. And then how much would you be down? You'd be down 50%. Let's say you did 10 trades, all risking 5%. Would you be down 50%? Yeah, you would.
5% of reducing time?
Well, no, you place 10 trades all at the same time.
Oh, sorry.
Right? They're risking 5%.
I'll let you get away.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it. You're down at 50%. Now what do you need to make in percentage terms to get back to where you started? You need 100%. Right, just to get back to where you were. What about if you lose 80%? What do you need to make in percentage terms to get back to where you started? 400%. Is that true? So the game is not about making money. Write that down. The game is not about making money. The game is about protecting money and growing it, in that order. Protecting money and growing it, in that order. The question we do not ask is, how much money can I make? The question we ask is, how much money can I afford to lose? And it's very important, the distinctions we make with the questions that we ask ourselves as traders. Not just from the risk management standpoint, how much money can I make as opposed to how much money can I afford to lose, but also the questions that we ask our brains when we maybe lose money on a trade. Some people, when they lose money on a trade, they ask themselves the question, why am I such an idiot? And the only answer that can come from that is, because you are. Or the question could be, what can I learn from this? And maybe if I then interrogate what I did at that time, I may find out something that can help me in the future. Is that true? I read an amazing book recently about a trader coach in America, and he had 2 guys that he was training. One of them, every single time the guy lost money, the guy would freak out. I mean, he would literally smash up computers, go freaking ballistic, absolutely crazy and off the charts. And then there was another guy, the guy was coaching at the same time, who, when he lost money, the guy would just go calmly for a walk. He'd go have a little walk and he'd walk up. Which do you think was the guy that made all the money? The first guy that smashed up all his stuff, or the guy that went calmly for a walk and thought about it? Who made all the money? First guy or the second guy? First guy. Everyone's like, what? Yeah, here's the problem. The second guy, when he lost money, he went to walk it off, to get rid of the emotions. Oh, I just need to go walk it off, right? Was he searching for the answer that caused him to lose the money? No, he was just trying to deal with the emotion of feeling bad. The guy that lost the money went freaking bananas, smashed everything up, and then had to find out the reason he lost the money. What did he miss was his question. Does that make sense? Okay, he did it in an impassioned way. It doesn't matter. The fact is, he found out what caused him to lose the money, the thing he missed out on, and he made sure he never made that mistake again. Does that make sense? Yeah, you getting that? So importantly, I'm going to do that work for you this weekend. I'm going to show you the stones you need to overturn before you place a trade. That's Environment Day. That's what we're going to do today. You're going to know what days you shouldn't trade. What days, there's just news items out there and you should keep out of the markets. And then you're going to learn what strategies you should use when you should trade, and then you're going to learn how to put it together. So the first step, as I've said in this, is the risk management part. And the key is, if you want the truth, press print. So we press print. So if I know they're risk managing and I look at 1% of whatever their account is now, I know whether they're risk managing. Now, if that's okay, then I've got to go here, which is strategy. Do they understand effective trading strategy? Are they using effective trading strategy? Most people are not using effective trading strategy. Most people certainly aren't risk managing their trading. If you aren't doing this, if you aren't doing this piece and you're not doing this piece, but you're trying a variety of different things, which most people do. Important word there is variety. If I'm trying a variety of different things, then ultimately we're just going to lose money. That is the perfect, if you want the perfect recipe for losing money trading, it is not risk managing to 1%, and then trying a variety of different trading strategies. It's a perfect formula for losing money. A perfect formula for losing money. So you've got to do the opposite of those two things. Then finally, you can make good money doing this. Just this alone. You can make good money. You can live off foreign exchange trading doing this. Absolutely. This is absolutely fine. And a lot of people do this. But there is another level here, which is called trader discretion. And this builds a little bit over time. Just practice in the field. Just the more you're trading, the more you're understanding, and the more you're just tweaking your strategy a little bit. Does that make sense? Now here's the key. When most people learn to trade, they start here. So they start in a place called my own discretion. And it's got no foundation whatsoever. Zero foundation. So they're like, this is what I think the market's going to. I've had a look on a couple of blog sites, see what those guys think. I've been watching the news a little bit, see what that thinks. I've got some signals from some software, thing like that. And then this is their trader discretion. It's based on a mismatch, hish-hash of a load of rubbish. Does that make sense? And that's where they're at. And then it's a very difficult and slow road to go back to here. So what we are going to do is we're going to start the right way. We're going to make sure everything is risk managed first. So if ever there's a problem, if a trade ever goes wrong, you never make any money, whatever, you always know up front how much you're going to lose on the trade. It's a certainty. You know if it's a $10,000 account, you're going to lose $100 if it goes wrong. You know if it's a $100,000 account, you can lose $1,000. You know, you're going to know up front how much you're going to lose. A loss should never come as a surprise. If a loss comes as a surprise, then you know clearly you haven't risk managed it up front. Does that make sense? That's how it's got to be. And then it's going to be the employment of strategy, and then of course we're going to get you to trader discretion. And that is the real routes to success. So whenever I work with anybody and I want to know how well they're doing, I just measure them on that scale. Does the person understand and know risk? Well, let's press print and find out. Do they understand strategy and do they use strategy? Often people understand stuff, they say, oh yeah, I know that. But then they don't do it, so they're not getting the results from it. And then can they apply any discretion? So here's a classic example. So somebody, they're doing 1% risk. They've understood some strategy, and then they start trading. They place a load of trades on a Thursday or a Friday when non-farm payrolls are coming out. Now, non-farm payrolls are the employment number in America. It's the most important economic statistic to come out to affect the foreign exchange markets, because it's based around the US dollar, which is the most important currency when we're talking about trading Forex. Do you think people walk into that mistake of trading when there's big news items coming out? Yes or no? Yeah. They do it all the time. They fail to look at the calendar, they fail to look at what's coming up, and they just make massive glaring errors, and they just walk straight into a thunderstorm. Okay, so what we're going to teach you to do is to understand which days you can trade, which days you can't trade, and which days you sit on your hands and do nothing. And like that, you're adhering to the principles of capital preservation. And then when you've got a nice ball of capital, all we're going to just do is look to grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it. Make sense? Good. So what about Forex? Let's just kind of cover off some principles very quick. It's big. It's a very big marketplace. It's like if the US stock market was a swimming pool, it's like 7 Atlantic Oceans combined. It's massive. $3 trillion, even more than that, $3.25 trillion are traded every single day. If you look at the Commitment of Traders report, you'll see now that number is just growing all the time. It doesn't rely on investors and traders alone. It also obviously facilitates world trade. So countries and economies and nations have to, by their very implication and nature, trade with each other. So there's always plenty of volume in that marketplace. Unlike a stock market, which can dry up, which can become very illiquid at periods of time, like credit crunches and things like that, the foreign exchange market is, it has other uses than just an investment tool for real money managers and private traders. So there's lots of things which are consistently moving it. It is the asset class of choice for millionaires. It certainly is. And the reason for that is because you can trade 100 million euros for the same price you can trade €1 million. Unlike stocks, if you want to buy lots and lots and lots of stocks, the challenge with stocks is finding a load of people that all want to sell it to you at the same price. Is that true? Yeah, so if you want to build up a big position in some stocks, the more stock you buy, the more expensive it's going to become. In the Forex markets, when you've got 3.25 trillion trading in liquid every day, there ain't anything more liquid. What does that mean to you as an individual? What it means to you as an individual is you can really cap how much it's going to cost you to trade. And you can also have some assurance that you're going to get in and get out at the same level that you wanted to get in and get out of. And that makes it very transparent. If you were picking a tool to start trading with, I don't think you could find a better tool for Forex for that very reason. The other very reason, or very important reason, is because it's so liquid and because there are so many people trading it, it means that the signals, the buy and the sell signals that you're going to learn, those generated signals, are very accurate. You think about a stock market, or even think about a junior market, like the pink sheets in the States or the AIM market in the UK. Any one particular investor who's trading in the share market, a big investor, can run or run down that stock price very quickly. Is that true? Yeah, because they can manipulate it very easily by buying or selling a big chunk of stock. Very difficult to do in a currency market. You have to get banks together to really push down, or you have to get countries together to move currencies consistently and certainly in a sustained movement against its trend. So often that doesn't happen, and often what that means is that we get to see quite clear and technical levels and signals. It's called the Forex, Retail FX, FX Spot, Cash Forex. You're going to be trading the Cash Forex market, and you're going to find that it's extremely, extremely liquid. Now, unlike any stock market, there is no central exchange. Now, what is an exchange? Well, an exchange is a place which registers which shares were sold, by who, under what volume and what price. That doesn't really happen in the Forex market. You want to think of the Forex market as a great big peer-to-peer network. A peer-to-peer network, something like Napster. Do you guys know what Napster is? So Napster is, in the old days, when you wanted to do music file sharing piracy, right? There used to be, and when this first started on the internet, there were some companies which set up, and basically what they did is they just stored all the music files of Britney Spears, and you just go to this website, and you could download Britney Spears' album. Well then, that one web server, the company that hosted that web server that ran that free service, Sony or any of the big music producers would just go along and then sue that company. So the technical people behind music piracy and file sharing are quite clever. So they come up with some other ideas as to how they could distribute music and videos for free without getting sued. And the way they did it was they said, well, let's just give everybody some software on their PC. So if you want to go and download a song from Britney Spears, you'll get the first few tracks from a guy in Iowa, you'll get another track from somebody in Sydney, and you'll get some more tracks from somebody in London. In fact, all the data is just split up, and you'll download it from multiple sources. So everybody is giving you a little bit of the data who is part of the network. Does that make sense? So you've got this huge network. There's no one central exchange for it to go through. It's just a huge, big network, so it's very difficult to sue people. And so the Forex markets is not quite like that in terms of piracy, but it is a network, which means that it's very difficult at any one time to know exactly what the euro-dollar is trading at, unless you're really looking at the interbank market. The big majority of foreign exchange dealing is done between banks in the interbank world, where I used to work, in the interbank bank-to-bank market. That's where 80% of all that $3.25 trillion every day is traded. The rest of it is done through market makers, through brokers, and it's done in what's called the OTC, or over-the-counter market, which is where you guys participate. Now, what that means is that it's very difficult to know at any one time exactly where the price of those currencies are, because they're in a big network. They don't pass through one central point which stamps them and says, this is the price right now. However, Software and market data has improved over the last years, and there's now software and tools you can use, like I use eSignal, I know some of you have eSignal already set up, that uses multiple data sources that allows you to see exactly what the price of those currencies are trading at any one given time, which means you have a very exacting view, or as close to exacting view as possible, telling you exactly where those currencies are. Does that make sense? So think of it, so please write down and make awareness, Forex, the Forex market is not an exchange. It's not an central exchange. It's a network. It's a network, okay? So what does it mean to you as an individual? It means you need to know as best as possible where the market's really trading. Why? Because you are going to be following the big dogs, and the big dogs is the term that's given to the major interbank institutional players in the marketplace. Now, those players look at certain floors and certain ceilings in the market from which to trade. They're obviously going to buy it when it bounces off the floor, and they're going to sell it when it bounces off the ceiling. Does that make sense? Because after it bounces off the ceiling, it's going to fall. When it bounces off the floor, it's going to rise. So they're looking at these key points in the market based on professional data. So you need to have the same view on the world as they do. Okay, that's important. So a data source that provides you with a consolidated view is important. So there are lots of different things you can use. I use eSignal. I find it excellent. It provides me a nice combined view of market data, and that's important. You're going to find that trading the Forex markets is going to give you distinct upside over trading the stock market. From a liquidity standpoint, you're going to find that you can get in and get out of trades very quickly. What that means is, if you're in a trade that isn't going in the right direction, it's very unlikely that you're going to get gapped. Now, what does gapping mean? Well, gapping is where you're holding a stock, and that stock suddenly moves adversely against you, and you cannot get out of that trade quick enough. So let's say, for example, let's have a look at a picture of the stock market. Let's say it's moving up, you're holding this stock, and you decide that if things go wrong, your stop loss, right down here, stop loss is here. So let's say you bought this stock here on the blue dot, and it's moving up and everything's great. But you decide that if it did fall, you'd come out where the red line is. Well, what happens is overnight, when the stock market closes, suddenly some bad news comes out on this stock, and the next morning it opens down here. That's what we call a nightmare, okay? Is that true? Anybody had an experience in the stock market like that before? Yeah. So we all know about that. And the key is, you say to your broker, well, I wanted to get out here, what happened? And the point is the market just opened down here, so they have to fill you down here. And so you've taken an extended loss beyond your anticipated loss. Does that make sense? That can happen in the stock market. It's because the stock market closes in the evening and wakes up in the morning. And when a market closes and then reopens, that creates risk. Does that make sense? When a market stays open like the Forex markets, there is no gaps like that. And what that means to you is, for most of the time, not guaranteed, but for most of the time, you've got plenty of time to get out of a losing trade. Which means if it was here, it would trade through this level and you would get exited correctly, and you'd be able to prevent yourself from taking such a big loss. So when you're picking a tool to trade with, it allows you to really risk manage. Okay. Does that make sense, people? Do you guys catch that? Yeah. So that overnight risk is removed. So that's why it says stops. Almost all stops are guaranteed. When does the Forex market close? Weekends. Okay, so it's closed the weekend. It opens here Monday, opens Sunday evening in London.
So we talked about stops being guaranteed. We didn't yet talk about the fact it's a tradable news market. We are not going to trade when there's big news announcements, okay? So there are other than there being Queen playing to the background of my voice, if we could perhaps sort that out, that'd be brilliant. Yes. What a fun event. Thank God you guys are so great. So listen, it is a tradable news market. It's a tradable news market, but you are not going to trade the news. What I mean by that is certain foreign exchange traders literally
do nothing other than listen to a news stream and trade based on news events. Does that make sense? It's an extremely advanced style of trading the Forex markets, which requires just an incredible understanding of multiple things that affect intermarket analysis. And you are certainly not going to do that. You are not going to be doing that. My job, let me tell you what my job is with you. My job is to get you making money. And the way I'm going to get you to make money is I've got to get you to remove risk from the table, not add risk to the table. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's your job. As a Forex trader, somebody who's starting off trading Forex and then looking to trade it later on, maybe full time, we don't need to add risk. We need to remove risk. So what that means is there's certain days you're not going to be trading. There are news items that come out, and you're just going to keep out of the way of those things. Because what I want you to think about is the trading strategy you've got. I've got a very high back testing rate. They work very consistently. Nothing will ever work 100% of the time, of course. But the point is that you're going to learn 3 strategies by the end of tomorrow. And they have a very high, consistent, strong backtesting record. And your job is to make sure that when those trades go out there, there's nothing that you can foresee that's going to screw them up. Does that make sense? So all your job is constantly doing is getting them out there, removing risk. And removing risk is things like making sure that there's no major news announcements, making sure that it's not the wrong kind of day of the week, so it's not month end or not year end or not quarter end when there's a lot of financial movement around at that period of time. Your job is just to remove risk. And there's lots of different ways you can remove risk. The strategies will take care of making the money. Your job is to remove the risk. So you won't be trading the news market. Now the Forex market has strong trends, so that market will move steadily in a direction for an extended period of time. And what that means when we're trading Forex or trading anything is that we can take a predictable movement many times before we close the trades down. What that means to you is you'll be able to take, say, a long position, a buying position, multiple times and collect multiple profits from it, as opposed to in the stock market, which can move up and move down and move sideways. Listen, people will always tell you can make money when the markets go up, when the markets go down, and when the markets go sideways. I disagree with it. I'll tell you why, because I speak from experience, not textbook. So let me tell you what I mean by that. People will say you can make money when the markets go up, you can. People tell you when the markets go down, you can make money. That's very true. But this part where they kind of go sideways, and they go sideways, and they go sideways, these periods of time, people say, oh, and you can make money when the markets go sideways. That's bull. You can make crumbs then, but it's a nightmare. Does that make sense? You don't need to trade nightmares. You don't need to add more risk on the table. When you're trading a sideways market, you're talking about getting crumbs. Time you've taken the spread out of the trade, time you've got the entry out and the stop, and you're making crumbs. It's a complete waste of time. You're better off not trading these periods of time. So if you think about how the stock market ran between 2003 and 2007, it kind of did that. And then through 2008 and into 2009, it's been doing that, which is sideways. Okay? And then we had this, this was 2003, 2007. Then we had this 2008 into 2009 fall, which was completely tradable. This was completely tradable. And then this end of 2008 into 2009, sideways part here we've had, where we've been waiting for the market to come back round and then start getting into this as we now move into throughout 2009 for this part. So this is the beginning of the new uptrend. So the beginning and the establishment of the uptrend, can this be traded? Yes or no? Yes. And the establishment and the continuation of the downtrend, can this be traded? Of course it can. And this uptrend here in 2003 through 2007, of course it can be traded. But it's this part where a market's trying to re-emerge and recorrect itself. This was obviously the dot-com boom and bust. This was the re-emergence. This was the credit crunch. And now we're looking at the re-emergence again, if you think of that in terms of stock market, world market times. Now, this period of time that we've just been going through, it's very difficult to trade because before the market's established its trend, it can very easily reverse on itself. Does that make sense? And so this, making money when the market goes up, down, or sideways, forget sideways, it's a nightmare. So the reason we like Forex is that it trends well. And if you've got one currency which is trending better than another, then we go for that currency. And if we've got a currency which is flat, we just leave it. There's lots of options. There's really 16 major and minor pairs that we trade quite actively. And so therefore we're not just reliant on one major market, like for example an index or a country market. We've got the combination of currencies which will give us the trends. And where there's good trends, there's good trades. That's the key. We said it's always open. It's 24/5, so you can trade at any time, and we're going to go specifically through the times when you can trade. And the key is, because there's lots of participation in the market, there is, of course, a lot of leverage. So, some brokers will give you 300-400 times leverage upside of the capital you deposit. We'll talk about why perhaps you shouldn't do that, and ultimately what the right mix would be. Okay, let's get into the major pairs. The major pairs we're going to look at trading, and these are called the FX majors, are these four. The first is the euro-dollar, and you'll notice that there are two symbols. So you have the EUR and the USD. And notice that I've given you I've given you the name, and I'm giving you the common term as well. So we call it the euro-dollar, or the single currency. Certainly, the euro and sterling, so British pound against US dollars, are in competition for which one trades the most. So some months it's more euro than dollars, other months it's more some months it's more euros than sterling, some months it's more sterling than euros. Okay, so the single currency is the euro-dollar. Cable, or sterling, is the British pound against the US dollar. The dollar yen is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. And then the dollar CHF, or the dollar Swiss, is the Swissy. And these are really the most traded currencies traded by the major institutions, major interbank players, and obviously major traders. Okay? All currency combinations are made throughout the US dollar. So it's always something with the US dollar. And so these majors always, if you notice, have what's synonymous with them all is they have a US dollar part in the pairing. Okay. You also have crosses. Okay, we have crosses. So if you look at this second part of the diagram here, the crosses, you'll notice that whilst we have what we call minor pairs, which is the Aussie and the New Zealand and the Canadian dollar, these are often referred to as commodity currencies. So here in New Zealand and Canada, because obviously affected by the price of commodities. And then we have what we call the crosses. So these are, say for example, the euro against the sterling, the euro against the yen, the euro against the Swiss. These cross-currency pairs have two interesting parts to them. They're triangulated, which means that they're synthesized. They're created by, if you want to create the euro-sterling pair, you have to take a euro-dollar and you take a sterling against the US dollar and you combine them together and you create yourself a euro-sterling synthetic rate. Does that make sense? So it's always triangulated through the US dollar. So all of these cross-currency rates, the euro-yen, the euro-sterling, the euro-Swiss, the sterling-Swiss, the sterling-yen, all of these currencies are synthesized throughout the major US dollar main pairs. And as we said, the main pairs, again, just very quickly, is the euro, the sterling, the dollar-yen, and the dollar-Swiss. Now, as you start out as a Forex trader, these are going to be the top four that you're going to be really looking to place your trades on. So what I want you to write on that page, these are the real major pairs you're going to be using for any intraday trading that you're going to do. So any intraday trading that you're going to do, it's going to be around these major pairs. Okay, good. Now, the thing with the currency, the cross-currency pairs, which is like the euro-sterling, the euro-yen, these currencies here, what you'll know is that there's two things. As you improve, you will start trading these more. They have less predictability than the majors, okay? So they're less predictable. So you want to put here, these are less predictable than the majors. However, when they do move, they often move very well. So a euro-dollar or a cable or a sterling or a dollar-yen or a dollar-Swiss, one of those major fours, they will move well. But sometimes when these guys move, they move so well that what you'll find is traders will often trade the minors as well. Okay, these minor crosses and the cross pairs themselves. That's what they'll do. The reason they'll do that is they know that they'll trade some of these, like for example the euro-yen or the euro-sterling, and they know that traded correctly, they'll take 150 pip movement. Whereas the same kind of trading strategy on one of the majors, like say euro-dollar, would maybe only give them say 50 or 60 pips. Do you guys see that? But unfortunately, these are not as predictable, so they're not as traded. So predictability, write this down, predictability is in sync. Predictability is in sync with liquidity. Predictability is in sync with liquidity. In other words, the more liquid or the more traded the currency pair, the more likely it's going to conform to the technical prediction, if that makes sense. So if you have a technical strategy and you apply it to euro-dollar, because there are millions and millions of people trading euro-dollar, it's likely to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start trading, say, euro-Swiss or a euro-yen, the predictability drops down, as does the liquidity. But often those movements can be quite violent. So if they're violent in your favor, going well, suddenly you can see yourself sitting on 150 pip profit. Your losses on those kind of trades will always be restricted by your stop loss. You're always going to use 1% risk. We're going to cover that. But what it often means is you don't mind losing on a few of those trades because you know the big ones that come in are going to give you that big run. Does that make sense? And that's what people tend to move to after they've been trading, say, 6-8 months. They start trading more of these cross-currency pairs. So to start with, I want you to think, these majors as we've just looked at them, which is the euro-dollar, which is the sterling, the cable. The reason it's called cable is it was named after the tellerate cable that literally was a cable which connected from Portsmouth to London all the way to New York. It's one little piece of cable that went across the Atlantic floor, which kept the rates in sync. And that's how the British pound against the US dollar became known as cable. And they've all got funny little romantic stories, but the keys are, those are the major four, and that's where real attention should be when you're starting, both for intraday trading and really end of day. Now what I want you to be aware of is that you're going to be learning 3 separate trading strategies on this program. Intraday traders, people who teach themselves to trade foreign exchange on their own with no real guidance, no usage of professional strategies, often lose money when they trade intraday. They often lose money when they trade intraday. So what I want you to be aware of is that the big predictable money in Forex trading is end of day. Please write that down. The big predictable, safe money is in end of day foreign exchange trading. End of day. Yeah, good. Okay, it's a good question. Whose day? We're going to cover it in a second. But effectively, your day here in Sydney and New York doesn't matter. All we care about are GMT charts, Greenwich Mean Time. And it's not just because I'm from London, so I want all my charts in GMT. It's because the majority of Forex volume goes through London, weirdly enough. And the reason it goes through London still is because London has more trading hours with the Americas and the Far East than any other centre. If you kind of look on the globe on the other way around, you're just looking at ocean. Whereas London is kind of primary place to trade longer hours. So what you'll find is most of the Forex volume migrates through London, it being just tiny little island. It still is where all the so all of these trading strategies. New York traders, Australasian traders, Asian traders, they will use GMT, Greenwich Mean Time charts, to place their trades. And that means that bar, when that bar closes, when a bar which represents a day, it's just based on midnight to midnight Greenwich Mean Time. I'm going to show you how to set your charts up to do that. What's nice about that then is that when it's midnight in London, it's 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning here, which means as the day ends in terms of Greenwich Mean Time, the new trading setup is suddenly made available for you guys as you're getting out of bed, which is nice if you're in Sydney. So it's perfect. See, what we have to do in London is from 8 o'clock in the evening till midnight, we'll look at setting our trades up to trigger the next day. And of course, if we do it any time before midnight, are we adding risk? Of course we are, but we're happy to do it. Because on a daily basis, it's very unlikely it's going to move so far because the daily bars are quite big. So it's normally quite well calculated risk, but it's not perfect. We are actually adding risk. Unless we stay up till 12 o'clock every night. We obviously don't do that, so we'll add a little bit of risk. But here you can be perfect. Here you can see as the day ends and turns over to the new day, it's going to be 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, depending on daylight savings. So that's quite a nice thing, and that's going to be the income generator trading strategy you're going to learn. You're going to find that in your morning, part of your ritual will be you can just set that trading strategy up, and it's going to be up and running. So that's useful. So that's a great question, and it's going to be based on GMT. If you look at the amount of volume that takes place, most of it, I want you to be aware of, are these majors. Most of the dollar, it's the euro, it's the sterling, it's all against the US dollar, it's the yen, they're the big ones, and then it's the Swissy. And then, of course, the minors or the crosses are traded much less, and you can see that by the slices on the pie chart. So let's talk about the basics of currency trading. Unlike trading stocks, currencies, you're always buying and selling something at the same time. So if you were to buy some stocks, the only thing you'd really be doing is you'd be acquiring shares. You'd just be doing one thing, which would be buying. That's not how it works in the currency world. When you're buying currencies, you're always trading two currencies, so you're always trading a pair of currencies. And the way they're organized is you have a base currency, which in this case would be the euro, and then you have a dollar currency, which is what we call the terms. The base, in this case the euro, the base is always equal to 1. The base is always equal to 1. So please write that down. The base is always equal to 1. Then whatever the second currency, the terms currency is, this is how much you get of that second currency related to the base. So in other words, the terms here, in terms of US dollars, 1.3170 US dollars is how many US dollars you get for every 1 euro. So that means that if I was buying euro-dollar in this instance, I would be buying euros and simultaneously I would be selling US dollars. Does that make sense? Which means I think that the European community and all its efforts are going to be doing better in the short or medium term than I think the Americas are. You know, it's just a general point. Okay? If I thought the reverse, then I'd be buying dollars and I'd be selling euros. Okay? Now the point is, the market, the foreign exchange market, has a convention for the way it quotes currencies. For example, when we talk about the euro-dollar, we always talk about euros to dollars. We don't talk about dollars to euros. That's just the market convention. So the base, when you're talking about the euro against the US dollars, the base is always the euro, and the terms is always the US dollar. That's just how it's quoted. If I was buying euro dollars, it would be the same as selling dollar euros. Does that make sense? Thought I'd get you with that one. Okay, so let's have a look. If I'm buying, let's take a look here. So if this is the euro against the US dollars, if I buy euro dollar, it means I'm buying this and I'm selling this. Okay, because this is the base and this is the terms. Okay, if I switched it round, now this is market convention. What does that mean? In the marketplace, in the foreign exchange marketplace, we always talk about euros being the base and dollars being the terms. No one ever says dollar euro. It's just unheard of. You wouldn't say I'm going to buy dollar euros. You just wouldn't do that. You'd say I'm buying euro dollars, which means I think the euro is going to appreciate, all things being equal, to the dollar, the US dollar. If I quoted it round this way, dollar euro, and I said I buy dollar euro, well now I'm buying US dollars and I'm selling euros. Does that make sense? And if I was to sell dollar euros, it would be the same as buying euro dollars. Does that make sense? Yeah. Everyone 100% with that? Yeah, so it's just, you don't have to worry about physically buying some euros and then going off and selling some dollars. The broker does that bit for you, okay? So you don't have to worry about it. You know, you've got to treat the currency pair, even though there's two currencies in it, you just treat it like you would look at a stock or an index or anything going up or down. Does that make sense? You don't have to worry about the mechanics behind what's happening. That's what the brokerage does for you. They take care of selling the dollars and buying the euros, or buying the euros and selling the dollars. That's really not of your concern. So you just have to think of it like you would a stock chart. But I want you to understand the mechanics that is going on behind it. So you'll notice that some currencies, by their convention, are quoted the other way around. For example, the dollar yen. It's not quoted yen dollars, it's quoted dollars to yen. Does that make sense? That's how many dollars you're going to get per yen, rather than yen dollars. And you're going to find that Swiss franc is the same. It's dollar Swiss instead of Swiss dollars. Does that make sense? And it's just market convention to get used to the rates. So what you've got to remember is that the first currency pair is the base, the second currency pair is the terms. And the terms is always how much you get compared to 1. So the key is this. Here's the simple thing to remember. We say when the base is up, the terms are down. But when the base is up, the chart is... So whenever we're looking at a chart of the euro-dollar, if the chart is moving up, we know that euros are being bought and we know that US dollars are being sold. That's what we learn from the chart. When we look at that chart, we know that someone's buying euros more than they're buying US dollars, and they're selling US dollars more than they're buying US dollars. Does that make sense? That's what we learned from the chart. So very much you would look at the chart the same way you would any other chart. But in terms of porting across ideas about trading, that's really where it ends. That's really where it ends. What we don't want to do, what a lot of stock traders do, is they try and bring some stock trading ideas over from the share market and apply them to the foreign exchange market. And that always creates disaster. Okay, that always creates disaster. A classic example of that is in the stock market. Look at this as an example. In the stock market, we often trade something called a breakout. So in the stock market, a market might consolidate along like this, and it's been in an uptrend. So in the stock market, we might look to, as it goes through here, we might look to buy that. Does that make sense? Yeah, that would be quite reasonable. In the currency markets, we don't want to do that necessarily. In the currency markets, 90% of the time, that idea would fail. And it's a different dynamic. So people who learn how to trade stocks, normally when a stock goes sideways, it means there's indecision in the marketplace. It means buyers and sellers don't know what's happening next. But when finally it breaks out and gets going, we buy that, and then often we expect it to run up. What we often see with the currency markets is this. If this was a currency down here, let's say this is FX, we can often see this, and then quickly we can see that, and then we can see this, and then we can see that. This happens around here, and there's a reason this happens, and we'll talk about that as we progress. But with stocks, normally if something breaks out of a range it's been sitting in, stock market, that's a good standard breakout long consolidation trading strategy. Okay? You try and use that idea in the stock market and in the currency market, and you often get hurt. So when I say, how you look at charts, yeah, some of the similar principles exist between stocks and currencies, but the mechanics. Remember I said to you earlier on, I said, look, we don't teach people how to trade. We teach people how to make money from trading, and there's a difference between the two, yes or no? Yeah, the mechanics of how to make money from trading is different from just understanding how charts go up and down and support and resistance lines. You've got to understand the mechanics of what's making the things do the things that they do. There's a lot of what we call futzing in and out in the currency markets, which don't exist in the stock markets. And so we're going to make you aware of those things, and we're going to teach you strategies which get you around those things. Okay? Because if we were just to apply some really baby simple principles that one would learn trading in the stock market and try and apply that to the forex markets, we'll certainly lose money. We'll certainly lose money. Please write down 90% of the time a regular breakout, this is what this is here, a breakout. 90% of the time a regular breakout fails in the FX markets. A regular breakout fails in the FX market 90% of the time. Okay, so then back to the currency pairs, and then again, as we say, when the exchange rate falls, the terms is strengthening. We say the terms currency is then strengthening against the base, and we'd expect to then see the chart turn around like that. Okay, let's talk about pips, which we're going to get associated with over the next little while. Pips is what we really care about when we're trading Forex. We care about the last two digits. So what you'll notice here is, let's say we take a pound. A pound is, let's say, worth $1.65. Well, in the Forex markets, we care about 4 decimal places. So 165.35 would be how we would look at the dollar rate against the British pound. We don't care about the 165 so much. We care really about the last 2 digits. Those last 2 digits are what we refer to as pips. And we're going to learn trading strategies that allow us to collect pips, retain pips, protect pips, and grow pips. Does that make sense? That's all you want to do, is just grow pips. And one day you start trading and the value of your pip is just $1. It's just $1. So you made 100 pips today and you made $100. And that's okay. But tomorrow, 1 pip is suddenly worth $100, right? And now we made 1,000, or maybe we made $10,000. And it's just a steady migration. And because it's a steady migration, you aren't freaked out by it because you've learned along the way. Does that make sense? I'm going to say this. If you want to make $2 million, right, be prepared to lose $3 million along the way. Write that down. If you want to make $2 million, be prepared to lose $3 million along the way. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means if I start with my trading account with, say, $50,000 in it, and sometime in the future, I've got $2 million net cash balance in my trading account. So I've gone from $50,000 to, say, $2 million. If I was to count up all of my losing trades, how much losses am I going to have? Well, possibly 3 million. Does that make sense? So if the cash balance of my trading account is 2 million, if I add up or sum up how much I've lost on the journey to 2 million net cash profit, it's possible that I'm going to be well over $3 million that I've lost. I just made more. I actually made 5. Does that make sense? So that's what I want you to kind of be thinking of. It's never, people get into a mindset with trading earlier on because they have nothing to compare it to. They get into a mindset that if I lose, I'm a loser and I must win on every single trade. And it's not about that. You should be quite happy to take lots of little losing trades. That's fine as long as they're small. What you're going to learn about some of the trading strategies that we're going to cover, particularly the income generator, which I would imagine would be the first strategy you're going to learn because it's an end of day one and you can manage it with your lifestyle, is that you'll take a maximum 1% risk, but that risk will actually shrink quite quickly. What's the beauty of that trading strategy is that after, by the second day, if you're still in the trade and you haven't taken profit or you haven't been stopped out for a loss, by the end of the second day, your risk has jumped from 1% down to 0.2%. So often, if you were then to lose on one of those trades, you don't really even get hit for the full 1%, and that's quite an important thing. Does that make sense? So what the key is, it's not when you lose, you always lose 1%. It's you should lose maximum 1%, but often you'll find a lot of the trades aren't even the full 1%. That's kind of how it works, because you'll see the strategy tells you where to move the stop loss, why to move it, and based on what conditions, which means that the original risk has shrunk. So if things then do go wrong, which they can, you get dipped for, say 0.3 or 0.2 or 0.4% as opposed to the full 1%. Okay. Now, thinking about the liquidity on Forex, the spreads are tight. So there's no real commissions in it. It's the difference. The spread is the difference than what you pay between the bid and the offer. So let me just quickly cover that for you. Okay, so you'll see a screen like this. Whenever you trade anything, there are two prices. There are two prices. What are those prices? The bid and the... Yeah, bid and the offer, or you might call it ask over here, I think. Yeah, bid and the offer, same thing. So 1370 would be one rate, and then 1372. So in other words, if you want to buy something, how much is it going to cost you? 1372, and if you want to sell it back at market, it's going to cost you, you're going to get 1370. Does that make sense? You always sell on the left, buy on the right. Write that down. You sell on the left, you buy on the right. It took me a long while to learn that lesson. I remember first, when I learned to trade, my first job after university was in IT, excuse me, and I was working on a trading floor, talk about serendipity, and all the guys on there were trading, and I thought, well, the quickest way for me to get this IT job is to learn how to make money trading, right? So all the guys were and I literally, my desk was right next to this trading floor of 23 traders, and I would just listen to them banging away, and they always, and I remember them hearing, and I would hear I'll have 100 million euros on the left. I used to think 100 million euros on the left was them buying and then selling. So I'd be like, oh, they're buying euros. So I'd buy euros. No, euros would tangle. What the hell? It took me a long while to learn that lesson. So if I have 10 million euros on the left, I'm selling euros. If I'm buying, I'm on the right. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's the bid and the offer. Now the key is, what's the difference between the two? Well, the difference between the two is what we call the spread. Yeah, the spread. That's what we call the spread. And that's what you're charged, okay? So you can see quite clearly the spread is 70 to 72, which means that it's costing you 2 pips to get into the trade, and that's the difference. So in other words, whenever you place any kind of trade, you're always down, aren't you? you're always down. You're always down whatever the spread is. In other words, it's got to, this currency pair's got to move at least 2 pips just for you to be break even. In the stock market world, can that spread vary quite wildly? Yeah, and it's not, what controls the spread? What controls the spread is the participation, which is the underlying liquidity, whether it's thinly or thickly traded stock. Okay? So if nobody's trading the stock at this time, it's going to increase the risk for somebody to broker the position for you, so the spread is going to widen to account for that. Does that make sense? Imagine you were the market maker in the middle and somebody says, I want to buy 300,000 stocks or 300,000 shares in something, and you're looking at the market and no one's selling 300,000 shares. Well, you've got a fiduciary responsibility to fulfill that obligation, so you've got something to do and you're taking on more risk. Does that make sense? That's why the market then widens the spread to account for that dealing type risk. It's quite normal. So there's a natural spread in that. And here's the key. When you're trading the currency markets, these spreads for most of the time are fixed because there's so much availability, so much liquidity. So you haven't got the problem that you sometimes have got with stocks. Now let's talk a little bit about the instruments that you're going to use, and we're going to go into this in more detail tomorrow. But effectively, this is the size of the position. A lot is the equivalent to about $10 per point, or the same as a one futures contract. You will not be trading normal standard lots. You'll be trading mini lots, most of you, mini lots, which is where basically every pip, the value of a pip is $1. What is the value of a pip? $1. Micro lot accounts, there are micro lot accounts out there. It's so small, you know, it's so small, you know, it's going to take you a long while to get anywhere quickly. Does that make sense? So micro lot is pretty freaking ditchy. And, you know, given, look, I work with a lot of human beings, and I know how people think. And when you're trading 10 cents per pip, you know, if you have a killer month, you know, you're making like $25, you're going to have a lot of friggin' tenacity to stick with that. Does that make sense? So, you know, I say do yourself a favor, and here's the way I like to look at trading. Get yourselves, paper trade a bit with your trading account to start with. Does that make sense? You know, practice until you're comfortable with the strategies. Then get yourself so you can trade at $1 per pip. Does that make sense? Because trading at 10 cents per pip, that's a freaking nightmare. I mean, it's just so small, it's so arbitrary. You know, to get yourself engaged in it, I suggest at least $1 a pip. So, you know, when you've had a good run, you've done a few hundred pips in a week, there's something worth having at the end of the week as opposed to having a buck or something at the end of the week. So my suggestion is paper trade it, but get yourself to $1 a pip. Micro lot accounts are, you know, there is such a synthetic market. There's some kind of weird stuff with those as well, which also add risk to your table. You want to be trading a proper foreign exchange account, trading either $10 per pip or $1 per pip, getting quoted directly. You don't want to be trading a synthetic, secondary created exchanged market. What do I mean by that? Well, a secondary market is, you know, there is no real market for 10. Yes?
So presumably you can trade in between a mini lot and a lot, $2.
Absolutely you can, yes you can, good question. The question is, can you trade in between? Yes, you will trade in between them. For example, some of your trades, you're going to be trading 3 mini lots. So it's like $3 per pip. So every time a pip moves in your favor, you make $3. Every time it moves out of your favor, you lose $3. All the way up. So for example, you know, let's say you put $10,000 in your trading account. That's probably, you know, anywhere from sort of four, depending on how much risk is on the trade, and we're going to talk risk later on, but from say $4,000 to say $10,000, you're going to be in the mini lot category and upwards. To be trading standard lots, where the lot is $10 for every one lot contract, you know, you really need to be in $100,000, okay? $100,000. So do you get the message that micro lot is like a 10 cents? Let me talk about what that means, this secondary market thing. A secondary market means that it's not really the foreign exchange market. It means it's a smaller, like the micro lot thing was created so kids could trade foreign exchange. It was to get little babies into it so they could do it, so they can play around. But what that means is a broker is creating a secondary market for them. And when you're trading a secondary market, it's not the real market. Does that make sense? So you're better off actually paper trading until you're ready, so you can trade at $1 per pip, and then you're trading where the real market is, where the real numbers are. Does that make sense? Because the trading strategies are based on where the real market is.